Um,
Awesome.
so first of all, welcome. Um thank you for joining the Substack. I almost said
Thanks for
podcast.
having me.
I almost said podcast. So before we get started, just kind of share to my audience and obviously to everyone else that chooses to join.
Sure.
What exactly made you just want to start this Substack and your theme and different things like that?
So it started out. So I have a business Substack and I have a political Substack. And part of what I started writing was okay, I'm doing a lot of work about trust and how to build trust in organizations and what does trust look like? And what does trust look like in an environment where political structures are currently actively eroding trust and truth and how it exists? And so I started down this path of what is applicable in a business environment to how we work in social settings and how we work in community aid and how we work in kind of larger community building efforts. And so as we were building this out on the trustable side, we started sort of building toward okay, well, this we can make money on. And this other bigger piece is sort of greater good. Let's put this out for free, for nothing. Just put it out in the world and hope that someone picks it up and runs with it. And and then it turned into, a sort of a dissection of Project 2025, word for word, all 900 plus pages of reading it. And then if there was a counter to Project 2025, what would that look like? And so then that turned into Project 2026. And it's kind of just grown from there. I've published over 200 articles, which in my mind, in the span of a year, seems completely insane. But it has been a lot of things in catharsis and getting some of it out of my head, in sort of I am both ADHD and autistic, and how I process information is very much I have to examine what I've just read and then fit it into what I currently believe and then identify, is this aligned with my belief or is it pushing my belief in a different direction? Where does this all fit? Is it a valid argument against what I believe? And then once I figure out sort of where it all sits, I write it
Yeah,
because it's my way of synthesizing information. Um, and then that turns into these long meandering series. you know, Next thing you know, I've published a 13-part, 100,000 word series on, the benefits of matriarchy. So,
yeah.
you know,
First of all, thank you for getting involved in this very important fight for the country. Um, I think that sometimes I think to the average voter, sometimes that can seem like, given how politics, like for the longest time, every election was an existential threat. And I actually think that Democrats, even though I do think that obviously I wasn't alive during the years of Bush,
yeah,
or any other, and I do think there was definitely things that were really concerning that Bush, Reagan, the other Bush, like all these different things.
yeah.
But I think that what happened was it led to like the boy who cried wolf type of situation. Was like, well, you keep saying that, and then we turned
The
out
sky
okay.
is
Like
always falling,
this guy's always
right?
following. The thing is, now one could argue, well, you guys elected Democrats eventually, so we will stop the crazy stuff from happening, which is partially true. But what happened was like, oh, this guy never fell. So you're telling us now, and now what they've
Yeah,
learned through electing him a second time, with all the guardrails of the normal Republicans no longer being in his administration, like they were kind of somewhat in his first administration,
right.
somewhat. We're learning to see what he wanted to do in his first term that he was told he couldn't, being done by his enablers. And I think that people are starting to figure out, like, oh, this guy is not
He's
like on the
he's
ground.
terrible.
Actually, like, this guy's kind of fallen a little bit. And the thing is, I personally, like, I had started this Substack, I think, like October 3rd. And it, it kind of started like a little pet project to kind of do on the side, like, get
Yeah,
some deep. I think that, like, because my friends and family were like, I think they were just tired of hearing me talk nonstop about
yeah.
everything. I thought, now, granted, I still do that, but now it's more cogent and less flippant. I would hope. Um, And so I think that like, and so it started off just like as a nice little thing that I might like send a few family members, friends, stuff like that. And then my grandmother 2 weeks later said, "Why don't you suggest monetizing it? Like, not like everything's still free, but give the people the
Right.
option to do paid subscriptions and like start publicizing it." I'm like, okay. I'm like, I said it's not going to go anywhere. Next thing I know, within like now at that point, I was at 16 subscribers. I just passed 1,400 just yesterday, and
That's incredible.
it's the thing is, it's interesting to see, I've been on Twitter and, like, other social media apps for, like, a long time, more so Twitter, and, like, I've talked to various people that have a high subscriber count. I've gotten some, but a lot of them are legitimately bots,
Yeah.
and here, it's like, at first I was like, "A bunch of bots are subscribing to me." I'm like, "Come, like, there's no way that this is organic," but I'm like, "Wait, they're actually engaging with actual material, and they're actually, like,
Yeah.
we're either agreeing but have slightly different views on it, or like we're arguing back and forth respectfully." Like, I think that like, so it's interesting to see like how, and there's a big community of like, we're not competing for subscribers, we're working together, just like, at least
Right.
on the political side, we're working together. And I think that that's been very cathartic to like kind of like see that other people are like also kind of struggling with all of this, and it's not just
Yeah.
that. It's been
So
hard to before I saw the Substack to get through the last 10 months,
yeah, yeah. Let
last
let
10
me let
years.
me throw out a couple of things. Like you and I'm female, you're male. I am damn near 60, you're in your 20s. We have very different perspectives, right?
Yeah.
But we probably agree, give or take 70, 80% on this is bad. What's
Yeah.
happening is terrible. And there's a better way, right? What started out as just me shouting vitriol into the void,
Yeah.
in a lot of cases. I mean, a lot of cases, it was just like, how is this happening? But then it became for me when I started bringing my work into it, when I started sort of, it became very prescriptive. I am mission oriented. I feel like I've got ideas and suggestions, and you don't have to take all of them, but if you take this one little thing, you're going to see some improvement. And then if you see some improvement, maybe you'll take this another thing, right? And what you get in a Substack long form platform is different than what you're going to get in pretty much anywhere else, like a TikTok or Instagram or any of the other socials, right?
It has substance. It actually has some level of substance.
Yeah, someone in, and this is my bias because I'm a reader, a lifelong reader. I read 300 plus books a year. And so a lot of my writing feels a little bit like a book report in a lot of cases. Here's like the 16 books that influenced what I'm talking about right now. But what I find is that people who are willing to read a 3,000 word essay are also willing to sort of sit with it and think about it, and even if they read it and don't implement any of it, it will influence at some point their thinking on something. And so that's why I keep everything that I try and put out, other than my rants. I try to put out something prescriptive, right? This is how you implement it. These are the four things you use to recognize a epistemic war pattern. When you think about the fact that the right has managed to meld together Zionists and Nazis and Christian nationalists. They've melded it all together into this unholy coalition. And yet, on the left, we can't seem to build coalition because we get mired in ideological purity and
The thing is, I
single
think,
issue voters. Go ahead.
yeah, I would agree with that, because I think that what happens is like, the thing is, I think what sometimes you have is that like, I've seen situations, and sometimes on Substack itself, but like also I originally was promoting my stuff on Blue Sky, and
Uh-huh.
I stopped because I think that there was a level of like, anytime I simply just criticize, like, maybe let's move this a little bit more the way. Not like I'm a progressive, but I also do think that sometimes the progressive strategy is a little bit short sighted in terms of building coalitions,
Yep.
as you were just told. And
Yep.
I feel like that type of environment was more what I saw on Blue Sky in terms of my interactions. and it wasn't
Yeah.
actually gaining any subscribers because the people were mostly like, I don't want to read your stuff because you're adding like I try to add nuance rather than just like
Right.
because I know I'm not speaking to Republicans. I'm speaking to people that are already voting Democrat. I'm speaking to the
Probably.
people that. So like the thing is, sometimes it's like those are the people that need to hear. These are the people that vote in primaries. These are the people that need to understand that you can't simply just say what the ideal thing. The thing is, like I understand like one of the bigger things that we've seen is the Israel debate and what we need to describe things as and all the different verbiage and everything. And what often happens is like, oh, if you are this, you can't like Cory Booker, for example. This is something
Yeah.
I've got a lot of. The thing is, if I praise Cory Booker for like his filibuster speech or another great thing he did, someone comes at me like, well, he met with Netanyahu. Okay, I don't like
You
Netanyahu. I support Israel. The thing is, you don't have to agree with every single thing Cory Booker might do, say, meet with. I don't think he's pro Netanyahu. And you can things. He's a senator. He meets with world leaders that he might not agree with. I prefer him meeting with Netanyahu than Trump meeting with a guy who chopped up a reporter and then praising him. So the thing
right.
is, the thing is, I'd rather. The thing is, I think that there's an element of we have maybe some people on our side of the aisle that we might not agree with, and we might have significant moral disagreements with.
Yep.
That happens on the far left to the moderate and vice versa. And I know there's moderates that have issues with Zoran Mamdani in New York City. So and I wrote a piece about a few weeks ago about the whole idea of like the big tent versus, but also trying to avoid the whole like when you lay down with dogs, do you get fleas? Like how do you manage that thing? And the thing is, I think that happens when you try to expand the tent too far to the left and too far to the right. More so on the right, I would say. I think you're seeing situations where some Democrats are trying to embrace Marcella Green, trying to get her to convert. I think that that's foolish because she still is not.
Problematic.
The thing is,
Doesn't disagree.
I am happily of the view that she has been doing a great job on healthcare and on this Epstein thing, and I applaud her for that. But ask her about January 6th. I'm sure she still has a very controversial view on that. And
Right.
the thing is, does she want to say Trump didn't win 2020? That's a big step. If she starts saying that, great. Does she denounce her Jewish space lasers theory or like any other hate thing that she said? Like she's like still a deeply unserious individual. And
Yeah.
the thing is, I'm not like again. I'm happy Nancy Mace joined the Epstein thing, but also she's still a nutcase. Like I think that like we can still say, hey, we'll work with you where we agree with you. Doesn't mean we have to join you.
Right.
Liz Cheney, I'm glad she's on the Democracy Coalition. I'm glad she endorsed Harris. I'm glad we campaigned with her to some extent. Is she a Democrat? No.
No.
Do I appreciate when she endorses Democrats? Yes, but she's not a Democrat.
But let me throw something out about Liz. Liz is sort of a quintessential Reagan Republican, right? And if you look at where Reagan was, the Overton window has been dragged so far to the right that Reagan is a rhino at best. And really, and really, when you think about it, he's probably center left. His position on immigration, he was for open borders. His position on tariffs, like a lot. His position on AIDS. When you think about sort of all of the work that Nancy did with the AIDS community and getting that out there. So like you can't just throw out the baby with the bathwater and all of that other shit. But you also have to have some level of accountability.
Yes.
And I do think that on the left, the thing that we do the worst is coalition building. We get all caught up in this ideological purity. After the last election, I saw so many people who sort of claim leftist as their identity just turn it into a real shit show. These people were like, I'm not going to vote for Kamala because she won't, reject Israel. And first of all, you're voting for an American in an American government in an American leadership position. And yes, America has spent an enormous amount of money supporting horrifying things, not just in Israel, but the entirety of South America and the shit show down there. And what we've done in the Middle East is an abomination. But the reality is that if you claim to be a leftist and can't get your head around what harm reduction looks like, don't fucking bother.
the thing is, you're going to see all these people, specifically, like you saw this in Michigan, obviously. Also, that was a big thing in Michigan. And the thing is, the thing is, if you can't understand that Kamala Harris, even if you disagree with her or have significant issues with her
I
views
had
on,
significant issues with the fact that I felt like she was authoritarian. I am very anti-cop. I am anti-authoritarian. I did not like a lot of her positions on the police and on all sorts of things. But I felt she was a smart, competent person that I, as a female, could vote for. Right? I was, I like, you had mentioned in your post that sort of this idea of, voting for women. I, as a woman, want to vote for women because my perspective is female and I want to have more female representation in office. That doesn't mean I want female fascists in office. I want smart, competent leaders of people in office that are prepared to pull us out of the mire. And that's where we live today, sort of in the muck and mire.
yeah, 'cause I think what sometimes happens is also like, I feel like sometimes that, like, we also kind of get caught up in slogans a lot. Like,
Sure.
you look at, like, for example, 2020, one of the major reasons why Joe Biden became the nominee was because he was one of the few people, even Kamala Harris, she obviously, well, some of her issues in the 2024 campaign was separating from her statement from the 2020 campaign.
Yep.
And she was one of the few people that was like, I'm denouncing the defund the police movement. And I think that we can all agree that there has to be massive, massive reforms in terms of the how police are trained and how they're governed and all this. But I don't. But I think that
100% agree.
And I think that what happens is, like, there's not only like the slogans get put out there, but like if you're not like, this has been moved. I will say we have moved away from that movement of slogans and like everything, especially since 2020, also since 2024 when we lost.
Yeah.
But it's this whole idea of like, oh, if you don't agree to the slogan, then you are like anti-black. It's like, no, I support police as a construct. Like,
yeah,
I think that in general they can make you safe, but I think that I think that there has to be a lot of effort to make sure that they are up from the community that they are serving. So there's a trust level there. There has to be a level of, there has to be cameras. There has to be actual accountability. And
yeah,
those are non-negotiable.
No more qualified immunity. Like
things, and those things have become more mainstream Democratic views, including of center left, centrist, whatever that word means anymore. I don't even know what it means.
It means nothing. It's dead ground.
The thing is, my view is, now you can be like a moderate in terms of like how you govern, but like still have like progressive views. That's how I kind of see it. It's like, and I think that like, but like I think that what people view as centrist, they see the 8 Democrats that caved a few weeks ago. But I also do think it's not helpful at this moment, since we're not going to get those 8 Democrats out of office. Some of them are in swing districts. Some of those Democrats are in swing states, so it would actually not be beneficial to do that. We're not going to get Schumer to leave his leadership position mid. So how about we avoid the division of the Democratic Party when Republicans are happily doing it all to themselves right now, and let's coalesce. And then hopefully when we win the Senate and the House back in 2026, then we can have a referendum on leadership. That's what my view is. And the thing is, everyone's saying, oh, we need to do this now. It's like, it's not going to happen now. And if it does happen now, do you know how bloody that's going to be? Look at what happened when we did that to Joe Biden. He should have done that. He should have dropped out on his own. I would agree with that. And I think that it was right that people were calling on him to do it. But the thing is, I think there was a 2-month battle that we lost of time, partially because you had people fighting on both sides of like, I don't want to drop out, you need to drop out. And you had a thing where you lost time, where you could be attacking Trump, and it was just completely lost on that we were hurting ourselves.
Let me throw this out there, and I'm saying this as a 57-year-old woman. This is going to be ageist. This is an ageist statement. But when you have men and women, but mostly men, serving in Congress that have been there since Eisenhower.
Yeah.
Eisenhower. Chuck Grassley has been in office since Eisenhower. Like,
that's crazy.
Like, I was not even alive. He's been in office longer than I was alive, and I feel elderly as shit. Like, I just like, there should absolutely be term limits. We've got to have that in place. My piece on campaign finance right now is the deep dive, the rabbit hole I have been living in over campaign finance over the last couple of weeks is crazy. But like, if we don't have real integrity in our organizations, if we don't have real integrity in fundraising and what we're doing, how we finance programs, and the absolute money laundering scheme that is campaign finance today.
Oh
And
God.
and age limits, for Christ's sakes. I am never in a million years going to vote for an 80-year-old man for any office.
Well,
I'm not voting for an 80-year-old. Call me ageist, call me an asshole, call me whatever. I am not voting for an 80-year-old. It is insane that we cannot bring in new blood, that we cannot, and the people that are coming in, like the um Frost down in Florida.
Very impressive.
That kid was 25 years old and couch surfing when he got to Washington. Like,
He's
that
impressive.
is,
I like him.
and he's impressive as shit, and he can make an argument, and he can stand up there. That is what we need to be nurturing and fostering. And the fact that Grassley is still sucking oxygen out of Washington, like, it boggles the mind.
Well, with my main issue with the thing is, the reason why I'm skeptical on age limits is mainly because I think there's a lot of value to it. I do. I think that, like, you do have
Yep.
Chuck Grassley's. You had Dianne Feinstein before she passed.
Dianne Feinstein, Pelosi. I mean, the average age of the Senate used to be 58 in the 70s.
But I do
It's
think
moved into the mid 60s.
I think that a lot of the times when you, like, for example, but you do have, like, really, like, for example, if you look, like, I do think I saw Jim Clyburn last night at GW. He was doing a book tour. The thing is, I do think that it's probably time just for generational change before he loses his faculties. He still has everything. My main thing is, like, overall, I think you need to fix campaign finance reform. I would agree with that. I think that makes it so, like, incumbents can't lose in primaries. But I do think that, like, overall people should, like, I think term limits are, in my mind, the elections are the term limits, and people can, but that can only be done if you fix the campaign finance reform that makes it them inevitable incumbents and winners. But I do think you also have to fix the structure of the House and Senate that promotes seniority as the basis of getting things done. Because if you don't fix that, then you're going to get nothing done. Because if you have a bunch of young people and they can't get, like, top committee spots, because, like, you had a situation where, again, I feel awful for, like, if you look at AOC versus Jerry Connolly for oversight, the thing is, I can see why people might have been skeptical to get AOC, because she might have been a lightning rod for GOP to attack the party because she is more to the left. I personally like AOC, but obviously there are concerns that I think are fair to ask. But then they put in a Jerry Connolly because he was a Pelosi favorite, and then he died midterm. They had to replace him with Robert Garcia, a really young person who was amazing as oversight chair and has been a big help in terms of this Epstein fight. But the thing is, you had a person the amount of Democrats that have died. Well, obviously, we've seen this from Republicans too. But the amount of Democrats you've seen die in office after insisting that they were fed for another 2 years, it should be a referendum on the party's gerontocracy to some extent. Like, I think that, like, there should be more of an encouragement to. There should be more of a permission structure to get these people to retire, because the thing is, just for the legacy. Like, Pelosi did the right thing.
But I wouldn't say just get these people to retire, right? That's short-sighted. What I'm suggesting, and I come from sort of a long line of, I've been managing humans since the 80s, right? And I approach it from a sensible succession planning thought, right? Where Grassley should have been grooming 20, 30-year-olds, people coming up behind him from his state, so that Grassley can say, hey, I'm retiring. I've been working with this kid for 20 years or for 15 years or for however many years he's had this person on his, like, from a strategic perspective, we just throw shit against the wall to see what sticks. It doesn't have any forethought. We need to have real succession planning. You are only as good as the least promotable person you have on your team.
I want to point out Chuck Grassley, his grandson, who is the Speaker of the Iowa House of Representatives. He was born in 40, he's 42 years old. His grandson is 42. He could be a great replacement if you want to keep the family legacy, if you want to do that. And I think
Right.
he'd have no problem being elected because he is a Grassley, and that's a very popular name in
He's
Iowa.
got name recognition. He's, you know what I mean? Like,
You can guarantee that your legacy will be continued and you can retire. He's running for another term, for God's sake. Like,
but it's just, it's ego and it's bullshit. And a lot of the stuff that goes on, and it happens freaking everywhere, is the idea that they just don't want to be put out to pasture, whatever. They still have something to contribute. Okay, well, contribute as a guide, contribute as a mentor.
I think there's an element of, and I was talking to my grandparents about this, was that, like, if you look at Clyburn, Maxine Waters, other people that are up there in age but don't want to retire, my grandfather was saying, he said, I think that there's a level of, because there was so much elements of structural thing pushing Black people out of Congress, they're like, I don't want to leave voluntarily. You're going to push me out. I get that. I like.
Right.
But I also think that
she wants to be replaced by a Black female, she should be grooming young women working for her to step into her role. That's your responsibility. We should all be molding the people coming up behind us, right? You're surrounding yourself with these good, smart, powerful people. Let's move aside for them and support them.
If you look at Pelosi, I don't think she's endorsing the race yet, but she did retire, and I think that's good. I think it's good for the party. We'll get some new institutional blood from California. I believe Steny Hoyer is. The reporting is that he's planning to retire, but he's looking to find someone that he can endorse. Why hasn't he been doing that for 20 years, as you just said? Like
why hasn't he been building talent? Right? There is this sense of sort of politics eating their own young, right?
Then you have this Illinois congressman who kind of cheated the system in a way. And obviously he got condemned for it this week, officially by the House. But like this Illinois congressman, Troy Garcia, he's been there for a good chunk of time. He's a very respected congressman, and progressive champion. But I guess his chief of staff had been gathering signatures over the weekend, filed, but no one really, because the thing is, not most average person, I don't even do this, and I'm a political nerd, do not follow the filing deadline. But she filed, I guess, and then he, at the last minute, after the deadline had passed, said, I'm retiring, then made it so, unless Illinois decides to redistrict mid-decade and gather into that war, the filing deadline's passed, and so therefore the only way to challenge this Democrat is by running as an independent, which there's someone considering doing that. But and what's so weird was that a Democrat from Washington, who I love, Marie-Luz Camp-Perez, don't agree with everything she does, but she's definitely a fighter. She definitely doesn't care about what party label. And she introduced a resolution. Democrats were very much not happy with her. And she got 22 other Democrats to vote, only 22 to condemn that. And that was to me, that was a very telling thing. She had a Jeffries thing. This is a moment of shame for the party. I'm like, no, because it was like, it's disrupting the unity of the party. Well, no. You could have all joined her and said, we're condemning this. We're not condemning the individual. We're condemning the process that's done by both sides to sometimes pick the successor. Things, there's a difference between grooming a successor and trying to get them to get into office through a fair process, through a primary, than being your successor. And I think that's what some people do.
I completely agree. What you should do is have a pool of people that work on your staff that you're bringing up through the ranks. They're not, and like, you don't want to just show up like Frost from Florida. He showed up in Washington not knowing shit about Washington, right?
Gosh, couldn't even find a place to sleep.
Right. So like, what you want to do is build some bench strength working on your team. They're familiar. They've got relationships already in Washington. They've kind of come up through the ranks. That's what you should be, because that's what makes you a leader. Like,
Yes.
having people in place and ready to move into higher level roles, learning the ropes, learning how to operate within the machine that is Washington, right? How do you get a and the fact that Frost did what he did, he arrived, he found a couch to sleep on, he met with a bunch of people, he got things moving forward. And there was a lot of bumpy road for him. You shouldn't have to come into Washington in absolute darkness and not know
No.
what's going on. So if you come up through a Democratic leader, that Democratic leader should be responsible for grooming and building the next group of people that are coming up. And I would suggest that the Republicans should be doing every single politician on this planet should be really focused on bringing up people underneath them. Be leaders. That's what we need from humans in office.
Whichever party gets to that conclusion first is
Yeah.
gonna have a significant advantage because the American people want young blood. And when I say young
Yes.
blood, I don't necessarily young people. It just means like new people. We want
No,
new
I want
people.
young people. I want young people.
I'm saying people.
I want Gen Z, I want Gen X. I want young people because let me tell you something. If I look around a room and everybody in that room is my age, and I do this at work all the time. If I look around the room and everybody is my age, I am surrounded by old thinking.
I
And
think
we
that
don't want old thinking. We need new thinking, new ideas. I don't want an 80-year-old legislating AI. I work in
there's a reason
AI.
why there's
They
been
don't
no
know
work on
shit
AI.
about it.
There's a reason why Congress has done nothing on AI because
Know
they don't
anything
know.
about
They
it.
don't. The thing is, you have the thing. Granted, that you have. I don't know how old she is, but you have the education secretary, I guess, uh, who.
You mean
Well,
the queen of world wrestling, WWE or WWF or whatever the heck the wrestling empire is?
yeah, she pronounced it as A1. That's what she. The thing is, she can't even pronounce AI. Like it's like the thing is, I think that's more stupidity than age. That's what happens when you put.
It is ignorance. They don't know what the new technologies are. I mean, you remember no, you probably don't, but like there was a time when someone explained the internet as the tubes that information travels through. And it
I still
became an entire goddamn meme, right? Like the tubes were on the tubes, but like they don't know. We still work in an environment where I guarantee you there are senators behind desks reading paper printed email.
Chuck Schumer has a flip phone.
That's perfect. It makes perfect sense.
The thing is, I'm from New York. Chuck Schumer is a great senator, like as a senator. Like he himself is a great senator. He's not a good leader. I don't think he's a perfect leader.
Yeah,
He,
I agree.
but the thing is, but I think that you have a situation where obviously he will. People expect he's not going to run for re-election in 2028, and I think that that's the right decision. And I think that you're seeing a lot of people on the Democratic side acknowledge it. Like when you're seeing these top people that people see as like when you think of the House, if you're a nerd, if you think about you see Nancy Pelosi, you see Dick Durbin, you see Jan Schakowsky, you see these very prominent Democratic names that have been there for like 20, 30 years or more, either in the House or the Senate or both, retiring. And like, yes, there's the worry about like, like you have the situation of like, are you worried about like, oh, what will happen when these younger people who are they like ask for advice since these people are no longer going to be there? But why haven't they been talking to these younger people on how to maybe
Right.
Do you have that? But I think I wanted to slightly shift.
Go ahead.
So I believe it's been like 5 days or a week now. Michelle Obama was I guess doing I don't know if it was a book tour or if it was or she was just speaking. She was being asked about the idea of the possibility of women becoming president in America, or if women just in politics. I think she was talking about, and she made a comment that like America's not ready for a woman president. I don't. What do you think about that? Because I have my reservations on whether or not that's fully accurate. Or not.
I think that I have no faith in the American electorate. I I look at the fact that, and this isn't a reflection so much on the people who voted for Trump, but it's a reflection on the 37% of people who couldn't have been bothered to vote. It's
Yeah.
the level of apathy that exists today in the American electorate, and I kind of hope, as insane and as unhinged as what is happening today in American politics, it might shake some of that apathy loose. And this could well just be delusional optimism on my part, where I really do believe that some people are going to be like, what is happening? Because all of a sudden, like I was scrolling through the TikTok, and I saw a guy make some statement, and he was probably high 20s, low 30s age wise. And he made a statement. He was traveling somewhere and there was long delays, and he was like, "What do you mean the government is closed?" And it was 40 days into the government being closed, and he didn't even realize the government was closed. There is
Yes.
a level of complete disconnectedness, right?
Yeah.
And all of that sort of disconnectedness from information leads people to apathy. You don't understand that while you, not you personally, but like where you sit and in not paying attention to politics is a privilege. That just means that you're not in a position that politics fucks with.
Yeah.
And
I
I
think
think
that
that's what it comes down to.
I know I don't disagree with you. I think what happened is like, but my main argument for like why, because like if you look at Kamala Harris's loss, like she lost Michigan, but at the same time, Alyssa Slotkin, you can't call
I
her
mean,
timid. She's a very strong, independent woman. Just won
right.
Michigan at the same time Kamala Harris lost. Nevada, Jackie Rosen won Nevada. I believe there's another state that this happened in. But like the thing is, so Tammy Baldwin, Wisconsin. That's what I was thinking of. So I think
Yep.
that like, well, I think that it's not necessary. I think there's like whether or not like there's obviously a level of sexism that led to Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton's loss.
Everywhere. Yeah. I mean,
But I do think that like there's a level like the thing is if you look at Kamala Harris's run, there was a level of I would say lack of clarity on exactly what she was going to be fighting for rather than just fighting against, specifically in that last month.
right.
And I think that you could argue that people didn't like her as a candidate, not necessarily because she's a woman, but because they didn't feel like she was a fighter. Now, granted, like that could be from a perception that women are not fighters, so that could also be an issue. But I think that, and also with Hillary Clinton, I think that you saw a candidate that was well known to not be a likable person. Like,
Right.
partially because of the connection to
I have
Hillary.
real problems with likability. I have
Yes.
real problems with likability, right? Because I am not a particularly likable woman. I grew up surrounded by boys. My father would tell you I literally am a born and bred ball breaker. Like that's just who I am. Um, and the reality is, I think likability is bullshit. What what people want to believe is that they have a competent, strong person in office. And Newsom had made a comment a couple weeks ago on a podcast where he was talking about how people will vote for strong and wrong before they vote for right and weak. And the perception of strength is what most of the GOP trots out. They will confidently be wrong, shouting from the rooftops, either wrong or just outright lying. It doesn't matter. As long as you stand on a stage with a level of bravado, right? And I think that the electorate that exists today, the ones that actually vote, are fine with that. It's the people who aren't voting that we have to figure out how to shake loose and pull out of their homes to vote and engage. Because today, that is a huge struggle. We should not have 37% of the American electorate not voting. That is.
I guess my question is more like, obviously, do you think that the reason why Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton lost was because they were
sexism and racism? Sexism and racism is absolutely a part of it. Absolutely a part of it. It's hard to argue that it isn't. She was like when you have to go through attacks that, she slept her way to the top and all of this other stuff, it's first of all, she was voted into the position that
Yeah.
she held in California. Like, like this is, and also, like, everybody gets pissed and they want to throw this woman slept her way to the top or whatever. But the reality is women are held accountable for sleeping their way to the top, not the men who use power to get laid, right? That is an important thing to note. But this idea that, women sleep their way to the top, and it's
Yeah.
just like, mind you, so when Mondale and Geraldine Ferrara were running, right, in the my grandfather referred to them as Fritz and Tits, and he had a little election button that said Fritz and Tits, and he was just as proud as he could be at that level of sexism. I was quite young at the time, not well, frankly, not that young, but I was young. I was old enough to recognize that it was straight up sexism, and that's what that was, right? And I think that where we are today, I think there are plenty of strong, competent, smart women that are doing good work in politics that you can point to and say, okay, Gretchen Whitmer voted, chosen. Like, there are the work that they're doing in Michigan is great. The ability for other, like, look at what's happening today in other countries. Like, look at Rwanda.
Yeah.
Like Rwanda, now, mind you, at the end of the genocide, 70% of their population was women, right? But when the men started coming back into Rwanda and said, we'll take our places back, the women were like, no, you won't. We got this, right? And so what you have is significantly reduced poverty. You have significantly improved economy. You have more girls being educated in the history of Rwanda. You have healthcare, you have local organizations. So from the local organizations and community based all the way up through governance and cabinet level, I think the number is like 61% or 62% women running the show right now in Rwanda. And mind you, they still have a strong man in Kagame. He's still a strong man in charge of the country, but the women beneath him are doing phenomenally great work. So when you think about sort of the potential, right? Like, I see Rwanda as the potential for what true matriarchy could look like. Really, you don't have to push men down in order for women to succeed. And I feel like we exist in an environment, a binary environment, that say if women win, men fail. If women win, men lose.
Well,
And
you saw that New York Times piece. I don't know if you saw the New York Times piece like a week or two ago.
Infuriating.
I read the whole thing. I read it before they changed it. Because they realized, oh, this is actually a sexist thing to say.
This is really a shitty thing to say. Let's change it up. But they didn't make it any better.
No,
they did not improve it. I would say that the only thing worse than a sexist man is a misogynist woman. And internalized misogyny happens everywhere.
Well, the thing is, you see I personally have the view that I think that, like, to the point about the whole strength thing, I was personally, maybe not for the longest time, I thought it was going to be Nikki Haley was going to be the first woman president. But now the
Which would have been infuriating.
But I also think that, like, I do think that I still maintain that the first woman president is going to be Republican, because you do have that thing. There's a perception, false, but a perception that the stronger alpha women are Republicans, and
because nurturing isn't considered strong, holding isn't considered strong, caring is a failure. It's softness, right? It's a marketing problem.
The thing is, what's interesting is I've seen people say that, like, the thing is, like, Pete Buttigieg, I think that he is an amazing person. I love the way he can communicate. He's able to talk to MAGA people and talk to them and convince them, or at least get them to, like, understand basic
question.
Yeah, he knows
where they're questioning, and then you're restarting something.
Yeah, and so I think that I think he I think that there's a significant issue he faces. He faced in the 2020 primary. I think that he faces in polling is he has he's really struggling with the likability in the Black community, and according to polling, again, who knows?
Look,
But
he got a discount on his children because his children are mixed race. And he made that statement. He made that sort of when he was talking about it. He was like, "Do you understand what for-profit adoption looks like in this country?" Like the way he was positioning it wasn't wrong or inappropriate. I think that you have, across all communities, whether it's the Asian community or the Black community and or the Latin American, like, I am not intending to speak to each of these communities as sort of monolithic entities.
yeah,
There is a broad spectrum across all of these communities. But misogyny exists everywhere, homophobia exists everywhere, transphobia exists everywhere. And it is, I think, the need that we all face to be unwilling to sacrifice a community for the comfort of another,
no,
right?
no, I don't. The thing is, I think
And
this I
go
think
ahead.
gets to the Democratic Party building coalition. Sometimes is that what
Yep.
happens is we try to appease everyone,
Yep.
and you can't. The thing is, what you do is you try to be like,
Yep.
what Trump does, and I would say the thing is, I hate the individual so
He'd look you
much.
dead in the eye and lie, right? He'll tell you what you want to hear.
He's really good at like giving one group that, like, for example, he got the RFK crowd by saying, "Oh, I'll put RFK in as HH secretary." He got the Mohawk crowd by doing that. He said no tax on tips, so he got the Nevada vote.
Right.
And
then turn around and screw them.
yeah, oh yeah, definitely. But the thing
The
is,
tax on gambling changes. Oh my God, people are losing their minds over it.
he's doing different things to like little pet issues that people care about, or like my favorite, or the whole like we're gonna save cows from these evil Green New
Right.
Deal Democrats, which has actually never been
Right.
passed.
We're gonna
but,
save the birds from the big giant fans.
it's
Like what? But that's the thing, is that
the thing is,
the Democratic, the progressive side isn't willing to stand on a podium and lie to your face. And
no.
that is not valued. Like
The thing is, I think that like the thing is, I think what happens also is that because of the way Trump gets the attention economy going, you see Democrats
Yep.
feeling a need to replicate it. And the truth is like you see that happening with Gavin Newsom doing this. Jackson Crox is doing it. I don't think people like things. People like Trump doing it because they like Trump. It's not that they like this loud, like things. I don't think the thing. I saw Jasmine Crockett a few weeks ago when she did a she joined a live taping at Pod Save America, and I like her. I think there's some valuable things, but I also do think that her thought process in terms of wanting to run for Senate potentially in Texas is a little bit short-sighted, because I think there's a difference between getting an attention economy on the internet and then getting Texans to vote for you.
Look, she's had multiple, I mean, she's won multiple elections in Texas. The Texans in her district love her. I think she's fantastic, right? But the reality is that there is a large swath of the electorate that will look at a Southern accent and be fine with it, but they hear AAVE and they're like, oh no. So that's just straight racism. That's nothing but that, right? And we spend a ton of time like tone policing, right? Where someone who speaks authentically is going to be tone policed. I saw a post earlier today where someone was criticizing someone for using the F word in their writing. Well, you know what? I use the F word like it's a comma. I use it in like I speak exactly the way I write. I write in speak in run-on sentences and parentheticals, and that's who I am, right? And so it is authentically what I'm bringing to the table. And I think that Jasmine Crockett is authentically who she is. I think that when people see that authenticity and they connect with it, fantastic. But I think that from a broader audience in Texas, and I lived in Houston for a little while, and I feel like I have a sort of a sense of the ethos of Texas. It 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 is a much harder row to hoe for her to get um the the cattle rancher, oil man, the average Texas landowner. Yeah, hold on a minute. My headset just shit the bed. Um, so I do think that is it on yet?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Um, I think that a lot of what it comes down to is how you get the word out. How do you reach those people that you would not otherwise reach or that you would not otherwise connect to? And I think that takes us back to the need for people in power to start bringing people up behind them. If you don't have a succession plan, if you aren't mentoring and building a team behind you to be promoted into the next election, if you don't have a plan to say, look, I'm going to run, let's say I'm going to do these 3 elections, I'm going to win. But for the next 2 elections, I'm going to bring a couple along with me and I'm going to bring them up. And then the moment I'm ready to retire, I make a statement. I'm ready to retire. I've been working with these people for the last 10 years on my staff, and they're ready to step in, and I'm ready to support them. That's what we need to be doing at every single leadership role. Because, you know, the idea that people voted for Trump because he was a successful businessman, it, that first of all is an absurdity, but also, um, you know, in business, if what we're respecting is professionalism in business and all of these other things, in business, you have a succession plan. You have to build bench strength. You have to grow your teams and be prepared to have new leadership beneath you. And so that's what it all comes down to. You should be nurturing and growing and mentoring. And I would rather see my Congress members spending more time on that than spending 50% of their time on fundraising. You know what I
No,
mean? Because
I don't disagree with you. I think what you see is that I think that, like, I'm personally, like, I think that that makes sense. I think that, like, I don't know exactly the amount, the terms that one would want to have for House versus Senate. I think that 10 to
yeah,
12 to 14 years in the House makes sense. I think
yeah,
that maybe 2 or 3 terms in the Senate is probably
yeah,
good. 18 years, I think, is a good balance for Senate. Get some stuff done, have a good legacy, get out of there. I think that
yep,
all makes sense. You want to be able to make a difference while also making sure that others can too. Um, I will say, I think that you see an amazing bench for Democrats in 2028. Now, granted, most of them are governors. You don't see a
yep,
lot of senators because things. I think the only senator that I could see in 2028, maybe later on for the Congress and Senate, I think the only senator that I can think of off the top of my head that's good for 2028 would be Chris Murphy. And I think that
oof, he's so good.
I
Chris
love him.
Murphy is so goddamn good.
I
I
want him
love
to
him. Yeah,
either run for president or run for majority leader or leader of the Senate.
yeah,
Either one I'm okay with. Um, I also like Alyssa Slotkin in Michigan. I think she'd be an amazing person. I think that one day she could be a really good presidential candidate and
yep,
potentially the first woman president. Hopefully, we do it before she gets there. But in case we don't, she'd be a good candidate for that. Ruben Gallego in Arizona. Oh gosh, talk about authentic and not caring if he curses a bit.
right,
Like he will. The thing is, my personal view on cursing in elections is don't do it all the time because the thing is, like, people do some, like, you're gonna piss
right,
off the suburban moms, you will.
sure.
And even Ruben Gallego was like, I'm gonna need to tone it down a little bit. But if that's generally who you are, throwing an F bomb occasionally is not gonna be
It it
mad.
it here when you think about and this is part of the reason that I think that Buttigieg does such a good job. Um, I think, and when we're thinking about how these candidates have to interact, right? Buttigieg had a sense as being a mayor, right? Where you're working in the community, you're living in the community, you're running into people at the grocery store. You know what I mean? Mom Donnie, hitting the clubs the night before the weekend before the election, right? You're
The thing is, you might have a
you're
lot of
in the
issues.
community, you're on the bus, you're taking the train, right? I think mayoral candidates are fantastic when they move into state positions and then into federal positions because they have a sense for their
Well,
community.
look at Bernie Sanders. He started as the mayor of Burlington, and now
Right,
yeah, he's like, despite his age, and I think
right.
that this should be his last term. But I think that like, I will find it funny that if you look at Vermont's other senator, Pat Leahy left, and then Peter Welch returned. He's like 70 years old himself. Like, he's not a just playing chicken himself, but he was seen as young
Right.
because he's compared. But the thing is, I think that Bernie Sanders, he's seen as like this like young spring chicken to Gen Z progressives.
Well, he's a spry old dude. Like he's got some energy. He can own a stage.
And that,
Even if he looks like your grumpy old grandpa, but
that's his like brand. It's like the grumpy old grandpa.
that's his brand. Yeah.
He's very authentic. And the thing is, whenever I talk about like term limits or age limits, I always point to that guy because like, he still has it. He's still stronger than a lot of the young people that I see going around Congress. Like, the thing is, I think that I think oftentimes when people talk about age limits, I think that they also they act like, oh, just because you're young, then you'll be amazing. Like, look at all the young members of Congress that aren't like on the, like, for example, on the Republican side, that just don't seem to like.
DeSantis is a millennial.
Well,
I look at JD Vance as a millennial. These are like, I had higher hopes, frankly, for the millennials.
They're alpha male. They're alpha males, don't you know? They're alpha males.
Look, and if someone has to tell you they're an alpha, they ain't an alpha. But
yeah.
I do think that when you have candidates going from the community where they're used to face-to-face interaction, you get a better quality of candidate. Today, in a lot of the Midwest towns, the Republican candidates are not doing town halls because they don't have the ability to stand in front of their own constituency and have real hard conversations. When you're a mayor of a city, even a big city, you have to be prepared to have a very uncomfortable face-to-face conversation.
You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice, right? And so now we've got a population of people, both Democrat and Republican, who in some cases are refusing to do town halls because they can't have that hard conversation. And so I think it's got to start. There's got to be a process. There needs to be succession. There needs to be real planning, more intentionality to how we bring people up through the ranks. And it's going to take the long game. This needs to take the long game. The Heritage Project and Project 2025 and the Federalist Society, these guys have spent 50 years playing the long game and getting us here where we are today. And they did it across all of the different channels. They did it through court cases and eroding campaign finance laws. They did it through crafting law through ALEC. They did it through crafting candidates. They did it through school board takeovers. They have played the long game, and they had a plan and they had a coalition. And if the American Democratic Party can't pull their heads out of their asses long enough to say no to the donor class for just 10 minutes so we can figure out what our long game needs to be, we're going to continue to tread water in this cesspool of tyranny.
Well, the thing is, I think that like what you're seeing is like you're seeing Democrats are starting to realize that they don't really they play more in short-term success rather than
short-termism isn't going to do it for us.
Thing is, now Mitch McConnell has been there for a long, long time, and I will have a lot of criticism. But
that old bastard had a plan a long time ago.
But the thing is, and things. Now he might regret some of the actions, given how which president got the reins of his plan. But the reason why we have 6-3 Supreme Court with it being 8, not just the 6-3 Supreme Court that like occasionally might like that actually is based on like a actual court, but like a conservative court that most of the time will rule with the Republicans. The reason why we have that is Mitch McConnell and Mitch McConnell only. And obviously his unconstitutional seat grab with Garland, which, if I'm gonna be honest, I wish Mitch McConnell didn't do that. Not just because of the Supreme Court, but also if we had gotten him in the Supreme Court, we wouldn't have had to deal with his weak job as Attorney General, where he honestly led to the situation where we are now with not handling Trump because he was scared most of the time.
I just finished reading Injustice. I finished it about 2 weeks ago. I am still so furious I can't write about it. That entire book, and if you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it. It is incredibly well written. It is meticulous in detail and research, and it is infuriating.
Yeah.
The fact that they could have stopped all of this and they didn't because of optics. It's literally, we are in the shit show that we are because of the optics. And he didn't feel comfortable with the optics. And I don't want to hear that word ever again because it is so fucking infuriating.
The thing is, the term optics, the only thing is, I'm all for, like, optics do matter, but the thing is, if only one party views optics as something that matters, then the social construct should be thrown out the window. Because the thing is, most of the rules are like, oh, you can't go after someone in an election year. That's a made-up rule. There's nothing in the Constitution about that. That's a DOJ made-up rule that anyone can just simply do. And obviously, the thing is, the DOJ will do whatever they need to do.
The DOJ has been decimated because of this. The erosion of true justice in this country. Like, both of my companies, so I have 2 companies, and both of my companies are incorporated in Canada because the US is now what I consider a post-law state. We don't have protection for IP. We don't have a legitimate democracy. And I don't think we have a real legal system anymore. We have a pay-to-play situation that I'm not going to participate in.
Well, the thing is, you just saw the Labor Department announce that the report that will come out tomorrow is gonna be focused only on November numbers, because during the shutdown they couldn't record any labor statistics. Very efficient, very convenient. The thing is, and then this whole Epstein thing. I don't know what's going on here. I've been, over the last few weeks, I've been posting almost daily about how I think that this is going to be the thing that I legitimately think that this is going to be the thing that takes down Trump. I do. The thing is, you see Trump.
I don't think it will.
You see the Republicans.
I hate to burst your bubble. I really do. But here's the thing. They're going to look at him and find 1,000 different ways that it was fine. Like, let's suppose that he'd been to the island, right? And he watched something else happen, right? He just saw it, but he didn't say anything, right? Is the man who watches a rape guilty of anything? Not according to these. And I'm being incredibly generous in saying that, I don't know, maybe he didn't, which is an absurdity, but whatever. I truly believe that these people can easily get their head around the rape of children because they've softened the idea of, look, they call girls young women because it makes it more palatable to have sex with them. That's why the term young women is used, in the same way that they use boys will be boys for 35-year-old young Republicans.
Yes.
Right? They're trying to reframe it as, well, they're just children or they're not children. It's exactly the same frame, just used in a different way.
the thing is, like, obviously you have the Alan Dershowitzes and the Megyn Kellys saying, "Oh, they're 15, they're 17. That's not."
Sure, it's a
Yeah,
hebephile, not a pedophile. It's an e-hebephile, not a pedophile. You know what? All of that mush mouth bullshit is just that. You
but
are just looking for a way to make it more palatable for you to have sex with a 15-year-old.
the thing is, you
Not
do
you
see, a,
personally. I'm just saying
yeah, you
them.
see a lot of anger, including a lot of like major people in the movement, like these influencers and these people with big audiences. I'm waiting for Joe Rogan to say something because he hasn't addressed this, and I find it very interesting that he hasn't.
Joe Rogan had an entire bit that he used to do about his son, because he talked about how I guess he has a daughter and a son, and if his son was being sexually harassed, he would be like, "Oh, get in there and take one for the team," you know. But if his daughter had that same experience, it would be he would have a different emotional response. Which, by the way, absolute shit take,
Well, of
right?
course, I don't think Joe
Because a
Rogan's like.
child is a child. A 15-year-old cannot consent to anything.
I'm personally of the view that Joe Rogan he he struggles with basic intelligence sometimes, but I think that
I mean, he's been hit in the head a few times.
well, yeah, but the thing is, I still think that he's been very like yes, he did endorse Trump, but I think he's been quite open about his discuss with the ICE and various other things.
Yeah,
Obviously, but the thing is, you see a lot of influencers coming out against Trump and saying MAGA's dead, and like you're seeing the split. I think that, and you're seeing obviously you saw the thing is for the first time you saw Trump have to reverse his opinion on a bill
yeah,
because he knew it was going to pass. Same thing with the Senate. He wasn't going to do that until he was like, "Oh crap, I can't change their votes anymore." I
right.
think that's a sign that there's something at least shifting, and I think that that is impressive. And so, but the thing is, I think that what you're seeing though is, I don't know what thing is. Obviously, the bill passed. It's going to Trump for his signature. He'll sign it because he knows it'll be overturned. His veto would be overturned if he didn't sign it.
Yep,
I think that he has a few choices. The choice of, ongoing investigation, I can't release it. Thomas
yep,
Massie and Taylor Green have said, we will read the names of the clients on the House floor if you don't,
yep,
within the 30-day timeline of the bill, whatever. Um, so he's screwed there on that option. He'll say, "Oh, I'm redacting it." The same result happens. Or he says, um, he releases it, but like releases the only parts of it. Again, the same result will happen. So I don't see how he gets out of this without him being somewhat scathed. I don't know how that proceeds. I think we're in uncharted territory in how Trump is dealing with these scandals in a way that we haven't seen before. I don't know what
yeah.
this means. I hope that it takes him down, or at least weakens him to the point where MAGA is so divided that they don't show up in 2026 and 2028. And that's enough for
Right.
me in my mind. That might lead to a more permission structure to go against Trump on various other things, like a second reconciliation bill. But like, I don't know if he'll. I don't think he'll resign, but I think he'll. I don't know.
I just don't think this affects his base, right? I don't think that his base. I think his base is getting enough of what they do want, and they are insulated enough from an information perspective from what they don't want, right? The We have been in a 40-year epistemic war. And I know that I start sounding a little wing nutty when I talk about this, but the reality is words matter. And epistemic warfare is what we have been under for at least the last 25 years. And I would argue 40. And I would also argue that most of MAGA has been bigger victims of the epistemic warfare. We have a different lens through which we view information. Like, I don't watch TV. I haven't watched TV in nearly 25 years. It's not my form of interest or entertainment. So I don't so what gets into my brain gets through a different filter, right? I read, I examine, I obsess over, I all of those things, but like everything that comes into my brain gets picked apart and disassembled and reassembled into where it fits. That is not the norm. These people have been drinking from a fire hose of fascism for 25 years, since the start of Fox News.
Oh
And
yeah,
so they're, as they've been drinking from the fire hose, they've reached a level of sort of inculcation where it's concrete. And in order to chip away at that concrete, there has to be little cracks. And I haven't seen evidence of a crack yet. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene and her situation, all of a sudden she's on being attacked. But she's responding because she's personally impacted, right?
Yeah.
Her children are impacted. So now it's real for her. And that's sort of shaking maybe her foundation a little bit. But she's also on the receiving end of death threats, because her base is like, no, bitch, drink the Trump Kool-Aid.
Well, I think that I don't know how much of my hope is delusional or like.
Look, we all got to have our delusions. Sometimes it's all that gets us by.
The thing is, I feel like there's a part of me that like feels like I need to like. The thing is, if pedophilia and your president likely being at least at best knowing of it and not caring enough to do anything.
They voted for a felonious rapist. They chose a felonious rapist. And
unfortunately, there's more.
We don't think children matter.
But I do think there's more, unfortunately, and I think this is a horrific thing to say about this country, but I do think there's more of an acceptance structure of rape in this country than there is of pedophilia. So I think that could be somewhat of a.
Maybe not.
Things you do.
I started out saying I don't have any faith in the American electorate. I don't have any faith that the people who should show up will. I don't have any faith that the people who chose poorly in the first place will choose differently. So, and this is sort of the cynicism of 57 years in this country. Like that is, I think, what it is. It is some part cynicism, and I think it's some part just like a pragmatic understanding of humanity. And I'm most of the time sort of optimistic to the point of delusion myself, because I have to delude myself some days to get out of goddamn bed. Like,
I think that all I know is that whatever happens, I feel like every day, like this has always been the case with Trump, but like I feel like specifically since I've seen things with the Wall Street Journal report, every day has been like an uncharted territory moment for Trump, and he has noticed it. Like, he's not able to control Republicans in the same way he used to be able to, like, do it in lockstep. And
there might be some erosion to how he controls the House and the Senate, because they're starting to sort of see the light. But I gotta say that my expectation is, and this is just part optimism and part wild prognostication, but I really don't think he'll see the midterms. I think he will be dead and JD will be president by midterm.
Well, I think that's his diet is not great. I think that
no, he's not a healthy man, but also like once he becomes more liability than distracting clown, there's a lot of stuff going on in the government. And I am not prone to conspiratorial thinking, but
the thing is, I am not either. But I will say, I found it very interesting when the Wall Street Journal story came out about the birthday book, and then it was reported that J.D. Vance flew to Montana to meet with the Murdochs and some other donors, and he's been silent on these new emails that came out last week. He's talking about other things, but he's been silent about
that. He's trying to distance himself. He doesn't want to. He's like, look, I know I wasn't on that goddamn list. That ain't my vibe.
He's not going to go out into things. I think what's happening here, the most likely situation, ignoring my delusions or hope for the future.
Hopeful optimism. There's nothing wrong with it.
Whatever it is. But in the most likely scenario, assuming that doesn't happen, is you see a situation where I think was already headed this way. Was it 2028, where Republicans are in freeze fall because they have a situation where Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson, part of the party, along with Heritage Foundation, have taken over like the more moderate racist crazies into the full-on like openly Nazi versus secret Nazi part of the party. That's kind of the shift.
Right.
And then you have let's be honest, like whether you like Trump or not, there's a psychopathic level of charisma that Trump encapsulates in his movement. I'm sorry, Vance does not have that. Rubio does not have that.
But what Vance has two things. Vance has Peter Thiel, and the Teal Machine and Palantir. But Vance also has the smarts and agency to control his mouth, right? Trump
He
is
loses his temper way too fast, though. He does lose his temper very fast.
He does, but that's only because he's not in control. He's in a secondary position. It's so much driven by his ego.
The thing is, I think that what we've seen is we haven't seen a lot of JD Vance because he hasn't been in politics for that long before he became vice president.
No, I know.
But the thing
Teal
is,
wanted him, and Teal got him.
Teal got him, exactly. But the thing is, if you look at what is the Ohio Senate race, and the 2 times he's debated, he seems normal. He seems like a calm guy. But also, look,
he's a lawyer. He's not an idiot.
The thing is, he also was debating Tim Ryan and Tim Walz. I love Tim Walz, but the thing is, he let JD Vance win that debate because he was doing the whole. The thing is, I'm all for
America's dad thing.
I get that.
Sometimes you got to go for the jugular.
I think that the thing is, what happened was I think someone said to the fact like, yes, we need America's dad, America's teacher, but sometimes you need America's gym teacher, and I think that that's kind of what he lacked during that debate.
He wasn't the guy shouting at the kid climbing the rope. And
we needed someone that was like. Thing is, he started off as the JD Vance is weird, which I loved.
Yep.
The thing is, originally, I was not necessarily. I didn't even think about him as a vice presidential contender. I was personally of the view of pick like a Andy Bashir, pick a Wes Moore, pick a Josh Shapiro, pick any of these people. Pete Buttigieg, and according to her book, which I have not read, but I've read a lot of excerpts of, and I refuse to because I think I read a lot of like excuses and then blaming other people for the decisions that she ended up having to make herself. But she said, "Oh, I didn't pick Pete Buttigieg because I was told, and I thought that America wouldn't elect a black woman and a gay man."
Yeah. Look,
I actually think, if I'm going to be honest, I think you're more ready for a gay man than a black woman for president. I do.
I don't disagree.
And I think
there's a hierarchy of acceptability.
And the thing is, which is odd, given black people. Yes, like obviously you have gerrymandering, you have the new Jim Crow laws, and like all this different stuff. But like, the thing is, you've had more
92% of black women voted for Kamala.
Yeah,
that like
black women are the face of this party.
First of all, more people should be listening to black women. Unequivocally.
I do think you have a situation where, like, I think that I think that the decision not to pick Pete Buttigieg, says a lot about her candidacy at large. Because I think what it says is, the thing is, if she had said, "This is who I'm picking, and this is why I'm doing it. I have faith in the American people," blah 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 blah, and this is why I'm picking for the things. She made about identity. I think that a lot of time, I think one thing that Elisa Slotkin did really well, Jackie Rose and Tammy Baldwin, they didn't make it about like, oh, I'm a woman. I don't think I will say Kamala Harris did not do that either. But he did a really good job of avoiding falling into the trap that American people that have the sexist mindset.
Identity politics has not just been toxic, but it has been driven in such a way that is so grossly manipulative of our most base, grossest, cruddy underbelly of humanity. And I feel like, back to what I was saying earlier, we cannot be willing to sacrifice a human community for the comfort of another, right? We have to take all of us to the same location. And if you stay out of identity politics, that's where you get to.
I think what happened was you saw a lot of vicious sexist attacks against Kamala Harris. Like, oh, she became, but like she got here because of blah blah blah, because she was a woman, blah blah blah.
Yep.
I think to a large extent, most of her career was she got where she was despite being a woman. I think that that's the case. But I will say, the thing is, I think Joe Biden and the Democrat Party apparatus that kind of forced him into this mindset was saying, I'm picking Kamala Harris because she's a black woman, which was the whole, like, I need to pick a black woman because of Clyburn. That set Kamala Harris up for failure because it immediately made her as the identity politics quote
Right.
unquote Trump quote unquote DEI hire, and it made it impossible for her to distance herself from identity politics, even though she tried, because it was like,
If
you're in the role of vice president because of your identity.
if you get me started on DEI, we will be here for another hour. Here's what I can tell you. Here's here here's what I can tell you. There are opportunities for women candidates, and I'll use the Hellcats as an example.
Oh my God.
For women that are Harvard, Cornell,
Smart
I
women.
think MIT educated, experienced operators, veterans in the military. These women are fucking powerhouses,
Oh my
right?
God.
And
I've heard
and
them
what
speak
they're
this.
going to
Wow.
bring, even though two of them are way more moderate than I would appreciate. Like, I would love to see bold, progressive women, but you know what? Moderation, fine for some people, I suppose. But like, I want to see strong, powerful, competent, experienced operators in Congress, in the Senate, in the White House. That's what I really, really want to see. I want smart people that are driven by the betterment of our country and humanity, right?
Yep.
I believe that this government that we have today is doing literally nothing for humanity.
Oh no.
And when it all comes down to DEI, right? You cannot tell me that the entire 249 years of this republic hasn't been DEI for white men in Congress. Well, because that's what it's been. This isn't, you cannot tell me that what we've had today to date is a meritocracy when only 26%, I think, is where we're at right now in the House. It is a white man biased environment, and that's the reality of where we live.
The truth is that like there's obviously been a lot of great American presidents. Obviously, all have been men, but and they've all been great presidents. A lot of them, well, but a lot of them have been great presidents. Look at LBJ. Obviously had a lot of issues, but he obviously.
I've heard way too much about his balls recently.
I know. I don't want to hear about this. But like the thing is, obviously the Great Society, big thing.
Right.
PR, JFK, all these great. Bill Clinton, some of his policies were good, not as great of an individual.
Bill Clinton, great example of a fiscally conservative Democrat. If you were to take an analysis of his policies against George W. Bush's policies, Bill Clinton, policy for policy, more fiscally conservative. And what he delivered to George Bush enabled a great deal of the growth through his entire presidency. I agree that we have had some good presidents, but I also agree that it has never been a meritocracy. It has never been about merit. It has always been about, these are the two most palatable people we can run against each other.
I do want to address something that I just saw in the chat. I don't want to say much about it because it's very weird. But I was asked what my thoughts on the Bubba situation is.
Who cares?
My understanding is that Mark Epstein, who originally sent the text, said it's not Bill Clinton. It's a different Bubba that's not in public.
You know what? I don't care? I don't care about men filleting each other. I could not give a shit less. And two consenting adults filleting each other is the least of the problems in the fucking Epstein files.
Of all the things in the files, whatever. I don't care. Like it's I find it more funny than anything else. But like, sure. But the thing is, that's my reactions on it. I think that the same person asked about said Kamala Harris being the face of the party. She will win in 2028, 2032, and 2036. 10 more years. Hashtag 10 more years. I think that in terms of 2028, I think Kamala Harris she's a smart. I believe that, like, I know people will disagree with me, but just like, she served in every single branch of the government. She served as a lawyer. She served as both a public defender and a prosecutor. She served in
on both sides. Yep. She's
obviously with the Attorney General. She's been DA. She's been in Congress. She's been in the vice presidential, and she almost was in president. She's really smart individual. I think I think she let the strategists or so-called strategists let her guide decisions because of the short timeline. And I
Yeah.
think that's unfortunate, but I do think that whether it's fair or not, I do think it's time to move on to the strong bench because the thing is, we have so many different candidates. You have so many great governors: J.B. Pritzker, Andy Bashir, Wes Moore, Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom. I have reservations on some of his things, but I do think
He's Reagan with better hair. Let's face it. Like
yeah,
that is Newsom. And I don't like
if he's the nominee, I would happily vote for him. That's my view.
I would vote for him because I understand harm reduction.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And I do believe that some of the things he's doing from a Silicon Valley perspective and the work that he's done in Silicon Valley and his familiarity with the tech industry would benefit our country. Where we are today in the complete lack of legislation related to tech, related to AI, related to social media, like the level of ignorance today that exists in both Senate and House in relation to all of those things, that would be an enormous benefit to have Gavin.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I think that what you're seeing though, is that I think Gavin
But
Newsom's a strong
he's still
candidate.
Reagan light.
No, I think that
I would still vote for him.
I still have concerns with things. The thing is, I try not to attack any 2028 contenders because I'm looking for a campaign job, and whoever hires me, I like all the.
I'll stop attacking them on your behalf then.
No, the thing is, this thing. So I like all of them. I think that all of the cons as any politician does, but I all think that they'd be strong candidates to go up against J.D. Vance or any of the Nick Fuentes supporters in the GOP. But I think that Gavin Newsom, one thing he's gonna have to fight, one thing he's gonna have to explain when he runs, because he's running. He has a book coming out next year, but he's running.
Yep.
Is his podcast and what he has said on his podcast in the first few months versus what he's saying now. They're two separate things because I think that there's an element because politicians change their mind based on the political wins, and that's fine as long as you do. I care less about what you say. I care more about what you do overall.
Yeah.
I think that I understand people will do things based on whatever motives they think are necessary for the political career, and I don't mind that as long as you do the right thing in the end of the day. But I think he's going to explain what are his actual values versus what are his things that what was he actually like, was what he was saying in this podcast then what he thinks, and what he's saying now is political or vice versa. And that matters.
That it absolutely matters. I'm not opposed to politicians when new information becomes available, them shifting position. That's what I expect. That's what I expect of me.
Polling data should not be that, though.
Polling data isn't that. It's new science has become available. It's new thinking, new philosophy, new whatever. If you bring that in and you've said, okay, this is shaping a change in my opinion, that's the kind of introspection that I expect from a politician. But you know, what I would like to see when and your goal is to sort of start working on campaigns, which is great, because I think that we do need more young people bringing information into government, like you've heard me say for the last hour and 23 minutes. What I would like to see from a primary perspective. So when Trump's first primary was going on and he was up against 16 people, and Carly Fiorina and Jeb and just the whole pantheon of panelists, right?
I forgot about Jeb.
I've actually worked with Jeb. He's of all of the people I could have voted for on a Republican side, he would have been it. But I want to see an environment where when we are in a primary, we are not spending all of our time and energy breaking down each other. Because what that does when you go into an election,
whoever the candidate is, they can be bruised.
Right? So what we should be doing from a primary perspective, and I would challenge every primary, Democratic primary out there to be, I hear what my opposition is saying, and my position is this. We don't name call. We don't, attack all of that shit. Just let's call it co-opetition. we're going to compete, but we're also going to cooperate because we have to go into a head-to-head race against a Republican. And what I don't want to do is have to overcome a bunch of dirty fucking laundry that my opponent slung at me.
Yeah.
What I want to be able, you know what I mean? So then once the winner has been chosen and now you have to go up against the candidate, if I'm primaried and I've won the primary, I want to bring the 3 people that I ran against with and didn't shit all over, right? I want to bring those people with me because those all become people champions in the win against the Republican. That's just good sense. That's like breaking each other down in primaries is destroying us from a Democratic perspective.
I do want to address a question that I just got.
Go ahead.
Should Sarah McBride run in 2028?
Yeah.
I love Sarah McBride. I go to AU, American University. She is I can't believe that she's an amazing graduate of my school. I've met her. She's an amazing human being. I think that she has a long political.
How old is Sarah? I don't know. Is she old enough?
Sarah, let me look that up. Because I know
I don't know. And the presidency is really the only one that has an age restriction, other than being 18.
I believe in Congress you have to be 25, but yeah.
Okay.
She is 1990, so that would be exactly 35.
Okay. Here's what I think she should do. I think she should jump into the primary with everybody else, right? Everybody, I don't care. Trump beat 15 people for the primary. I think everybody should go into the primary. I think that people bring all of their ideas to the primary. It gives you a chance to essentially workshop what is hitting the electorate, right? And you do it in a way that doesn't tear people down. I love Sarah McBride. I wouldn't have any problem with her going into the primary. And if she makes a case and wins, fuck yeah. We all align behind the candidate.
I would love it. I would love to think if she became the nominee and then she defeated JD Vance. I would love to see the reactions on all these people that are just the most transphobic people.
You just tickled my spiteful little heart because, God damn it, anybody beating JD Vance would be great, but her in particular would be phenomenal.
The thing is, it would be odd. I think, the fact that there could be a possibility that we could get a trans president before a woman president is hilarious.
Okay. First of all, woman president. We're going women first before trans. That's what I'm saying. But yes, 100%. I would vote for her tomorrow. I love her.
I would vote for Sarah McBride happily. I think that the great thing about Sarah McBride and the fact that she's so young is that she could be in Congress for however many more years, let's say 10 more years, run for Senate, do that for 2 terms.
Yeah. Take
a 10-year break and still be younger than Kamala Harris was when she was running in 2024. And that says a lot about where we are as the age range of the thing is, Joe Biden, I think he was 82 when he dropped out. We took a 60-year-old and was like, we got this young spring chicken.
Right.
The thing is,
still 79-year-old man.
The thing is, now, Kamala Harris, she did not act. The thing is, I personally have no issue with 60-year-olds. 60-year-olds are perfectly fine, I think, for age range for Congress and Senate. That I have no problem with. I do think that there should be more young people also in Congress. Yep. But I also think that I always just thought it was funny. It's it's not that. Sam McBride versus Herschel Walker.
Jesus Christ. She would wipe the floor with him. Herschel Walker, is he still...
He's an ambassador to the Bahamas right now.
An ambassador to the Bahamas. Jesus.
I think he's
sitting on a beach. He's sitting on a beach, drinking Mai Tais every afternoon then.
With his fake police badge that from his campaign. Yeah. The thing is, the reason why I have hope for 2020 and further is even if they continue with this MAGA bent, you've seen in every of these primaries and these general elections with Trump mimicking people like Herschel Walker, Mark Robinson, Kari Lake, all these crazy nut jobs, not too different from Trump in policy or rhetoric, but different. they all, obviously, at least in swing states, they lose for the most part. The only person that's MAGA that won in a swing state was Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania, and he was more like a he's Republican, he's conservative, he's cuckoo, but he's more like he's able to pack himself as a Reagan Republican kind of like he's more like a business guy. He's more of a business guy than I'm a conspiracy theorist who denies elections. Like so the thing is so it doesn't really work when they try it. So the thing is mostly because they don't have the same charisma that Trump has. J.D. Vance, he has a lot of different things that might help him. He has no charisma. The thing is, there's a reason why that the couch rumor stuck, even though it was a complete joke, because people could believe it. Thing is, it was people could see it enough for it to stick. Same thing with the weird thing, and I think that no, I wrote a column I think a week ago now that said what Democrats should be doing right now is start doing the opposition research on every potential 2020 contender now, because the thing is one thing we've learned is that no person is incapable of winning the nomination. Look at Trump. Second of all, it could be a moderate. It could. I'm not ruling out. Like you don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how much of a reaction is going to be from against Trump in 2028. We do not know. We don't know what type of things are going to come out. We don't know what things are going to happen. We also don't know if it could be Tucker Carlson, or someone like him.
What an appalling thought!
But the thing is, the fact that Ted Cruz, who I never thought I'd be praising in any way or form, the fact that he has come out and tried to honestly kind of really frantically oh crap, we have a Nazi that's gaining steam. We have multiple Nazis, and I think he's been I swear how these people have been brain dead the last 10 years, because it's how have you not realized that this has been a slow moving Nazification of your party ever since Trump got there? This is the party of Charlottesville.
It's not new though.
This is the party of good people on both sides. This is the party of Nick Fuentes dining with him in 2020. This is nothing new. These people have been close to Trump, or at least accepted by Trump. Well, even though the Trump kind of tries to things, because the thing is, what happens is I personally am pro-Israel, but I do think that the pro-Israel facade that Trump translates is more of a Christian nationalist element of it. And thing is, and it's not necessarily a pro-Jewish, pro-Israel thing. It's more like we want this antebellum period to kind of come about, and if we support this fascist wannabe Netanyahu, that'll come faster. And I think that they're if we don't necessarily care if we have a little Nazi, a person with a list of people he wants to rape in Nick Fuentes. He has a list of people he wants to rape. It's disturbing.
The man is repellent.
The thing is, I watched it. The thing is, after Charlie Kirk was unfortunately murdered back a few months ago, I will say, I find it very odd that we have not heard anything about that prosecution since. But that's, again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I just think it's very odd. I also find it odd that Trump was the one that announced his death and not Turning Point or Erica Kirk herself. It was Donald Trump. I find that also odd, given he was not on the ground when it happened. But I digress. After he was murdered, obviously Nick Fuentes was not. He and Charlie Kirk hated each other, mainly because they were both kind of battling for control of the narrative of the MAGA hatred base. Charlie Kirk was kind of he was very hateful. I'm very much so. There's no way you can deny it. The thing is, when you were quoting him and then you get attacked for being hateful, when you're just quoting him, that's a sign of Charlie Kirk. But the thing is, I think that he was still more able to control the Nick Fuentes people from gaining steam, because he was okay, being Nazis are bad, Hitler was bad, rape is bad, but everything else good. That's kind of what
baselines.
That's what Cook did. And now that he's gone, Nick Fuentes went on a lot of conspiracy theories. He said he wanted to rape Erica Kirk, and blah blah. He wanted to do it on stage. He wanted to do it at his funeral. It was brutal. But also, he did he had a lot of conspiracy theories about what actually happened with Charlie. some people like he had this dumb, silly claim that it was Israel. It's like, okay, no, it was probably some lone wolf that was inspired by some Well, maybe it was something else, but it was likely it was not foreign government. If it was a government, it
Right.
was not foreign government. That's all I'll say there.
Here, let me jump in for a second because I wanted to touch on two things. The infrastructure, the media machine that TPUSA is, right?
It's impressive.
And all of the background, right? Back to what I was saying about sort of strong and wrong. What the youth seems to connect to is someone that is standing in front of them with answers that they deliver confidently, right? They could be completely wrong fucking answers, but they are standing on a stage, speaking confidently and understanding what their grievances are, and then playing into those grievances with answers to those grievances. Who's at fault? Who do I blame? How do I get out of this? Like, those are the things that were coming out of Charlie and in some part out of Prentice, right? They are capitalizing on the grievance of youth, but also the
Yep.
fact that we have a population of 70-plus-year-old people that are making legislation that are completely disconnected with the average 20-year-old.
Well, I think that the thing is, I think what happened was I did a piece on this. It's like that there's a element of the Democratic Party that wants to dismiss that there is a crisis that the young men are facing specifically, and they're saying that if you admit that, then you're saying that, again, to your whole point about like this whole like one community wins, the other loses. The thing is, that's automatically mean like, that women have to lose. No, both men and women are having crisis, and you can deal with both.
Right.
They're separate, but they both matter. And one thing that Fuentes, after they died, Fuentes and Kirk and Carlson, all these nut job Nazis. The thing is, now they provide the wrong solutions. They blame people that have nothing to blame, or have no blame in the situation. But they say, the reason why the thing is, people undersimplify it to like the simple like, incel. The thing, it's way more than just they can't get laid. It's also that
I have a lot of opinions on this one.
The thing is, it's also that they feel that there's no social mobility, upward mobility,
right,
as part of it. And they feel that there's no way more. It's the economy. Also, it's a big part of the economy. They're like, there's also the element of I feel that I want to be able to provide for my family if I already have a family, or I don't see there's a way for me to be able to if I ever choose to have a family, which I want, to be able to provide for them if and when I choose to do that. And there's this belief of like, because you want to provide for your family, you want to like do these things that are typically like, even though it's wrong, both genders can do this, and both genders do this. But the thing is, if men want to provide, then that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, if a man wants to provide and says a woman can't decide also to provide, that's problematic. But saying a man wants to provide for their family, that's not toxic. That's just
who it isn't. It isn't that it's toxic that you want to provide for your family.
Yes,
that's
correct.
Reasonable, right? And I'm saying this as a mother of 7 children. I raised 7 children and 6 boys. So my perspective is in parenting young men. And where we are today with how we treat young men starts from a very young age in don't cry. Don't, when my kids were baby babies, infants, my mother would say, well, don't pick him up. You're going to spoil him. You're going to make him a crybaby. Don't pick him up. You're going to, and so from infancy, boys are trained to don't be like a girl, don't cry, don't be weak, brush yourself off. And this isn't new behavior. This isn't just because I was raising children in the 80s. This is just how we have the society that we have built. And it's part of the reason that I wrote the series on economies of care and the sort of the idea of matriarchy. And the reason I wrote it is because I had a conversation. So I'd been reading all summer, sort of in a deep dive. I've been explicitly trying to read uh, just across a broader spectrum of ideas and thought, right? And my son, my youngest son, he'll be 29 in 2 weeks. My youngest son is going to be 29 in 2 weeks, which boggles my mind. But he was reading Bell Hooks' Feminism is for Everyone. If you've never read it, I highly recommend it. It's not a super long book, but it's a really brilliant, loving approach to for men to understand why feminism is better for you because patriarchy has done you no good. The reason that we raise boys the way we do is because of patriarchal norms. And it's unfair and it's terrible. And it drags us back into the idea that if women win, men lose. And so I highly recommend that all men read Feminism is for Everyone. But all of that to say, I started writing that series and sort of rereading a lot of the books that I was rereading because my son gave me some feedback that hurt my feelings. My son always saw me as a feminist, capital F. But this is when he read the book and he said to me, "This is not the feminism I saw from you." And I cried. It hurt my feelings because I felt I was demonstrating what women can do in this world, right? But when I went back and reread the book, I immediately I had the book on my shelf. I pulled it off my shelf and I was like, I'm going to reread this book to figure out what the fuck I did wrong, that I didn't demonstrate this for him. But what I demonstrated for him was embattled feminism. Me consistently fighting for every fucking thing I got. Every place I got, every next level in management, every vice president position, every fucking dollar that I fought for.
Yeah.
It was embattled feminism. It wasn't loving, caring, kind feminism because I was constantly fighting for everything. And so the result of rereading that book and the context of a lot of the other stuff that I read over the summer, the result of that was this piece that I put together on the necessity for female leadership from an engineering perspective, from a leadership perspective, from an economy of care perspective. We can live in this world and women can rise in this world without pushing men down. That has got to be the root of it. The whole idea of the rising tide lifts all boats. Like that's what it comes down to.
The thing that I think often happens when we talk about like the patriarchy versus the matriarchy and all this stuff. I don't. The thing is, you don't need to get rid of the patriarchy to have a matriarchy. You can have an even balance.
And you can build matriarchy
alongside,
if necessary. But I feel like the power dynamic of patriarchy requires hierarchical thinking, and matriarchy is less about hierarchical thinking and more about this idea of horizontal caring for one another and holding space for people, holding each other in community, and everything that goes with it. So accountability goes with it. The everything that we've been working on at work around sort of building this trust envelope model and agency and dignity and accountability, those all go together as within a matriarchal framework. Whereas in order to fit that into a patriarchal framework, you're going to need a shoehorn and maybe a crowbar. So in places where there is a strict hierarchy reinforced, it's very, very difficult to exist in any level of care. And I think that's where it comes down to.
I was saying that. I think.
Sorry, I didn't mean to drag you into my philosophical bubble there for a minute.
No, don't worry. The thing is, I think that like what you're saying is like I think that the whole Charlie Kirk and like I think that Democrats have started to realize that you have like people that are Gen Z or Gen X or millennials that mostly Gen X and Gen Z, mostly even Gen Z. Like you have Pete Buttigieg, great communicator, and does a really good job of answering those questions that young people feel like they're. And he does it in a way that doesn't tear other people down at the same time.
Yep.
You have got Dean Withers, I believe, isn't it? Yeah, Dean Withers. This like amazing. He does a. I would definitely check him out. He does a Substack also, but he has people calling to his show that are MAGA, and he talks to them. Now, granted, like he argues with them too, but like he kind of does like a more respectful way of what
Sure.
Cook did. You have Adam Mockler, who I don't watch CNN, but he does an amazing job of taking down Scott Jennings every time he's on the show, which I just enjoy.
Scott Jennings is such an easy target. What a dickhead.
He's not like the thing is I met him because he came to speak at my university, like on a panel, and the thing is he said some things that were like that. This is before Trump came back on the thing, so he was back. He was kind of like in that like I'm not Trumpy, like I'm still like this entitled little.
Wait, look, David Hogue said everything that needed to be said about Scott Jennings when he said Gen Z doesn't want to hear a lecture from a guy on CNN with a Rolex watch about affordability. Like, and that's I think I'm misquoting a little bit there, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like
I will say
that is the synthesis of.
I will say I like David Hogg. I do like David Hogg, but I do think that his tactics that he was using when he was DNC vice chair, I believe, for the short time he was not the right way to do what he was trying to do. I like Amanda Lippman and her run for something. Yep. I love it because then she does the same type of thing, but she does it like in a more like a. I feel like there was.
I can't tone police David Hogue. I won't. I do think that we need rabble rousers. We need people that are going to shake shit up, and that's what he absolutely did.
But I don't think that's necessary. And the thing is, the DNC role is meant to be like we're supposed to be building infrastructure. Like the candidates themselves are the ones that have the candidates and the strategists and the consulting folks. Their job is to figure out the strategy and that's like what to do. We're not supposed to be telling people what to do, who to run, who not to run. Our job is to develop the infrastructure, fund the infrastructure needed in these states, and Ken Martin has been doing that. You saw that on a few weeks ago on Tuesday when Republicans were demolished in every area of the country, and you've seen it in every special election down this whole year. Yep. And I think Ken Martin has done a job of doing that. And you've seen obviously a lot of old people start to retire and do that, and some of them have had to be nudged by a primary challenge, and then they go on their merry way. But I think that constantly going after, and even David Hogg was like going after Ken Martin as chair, I don't think that was necessarily helpful to have openly criticizing the leadership out in public the way he was doing. I think that was detrimental, but I see what you're saying.
I think that what we should be doing from a DNC perspective, and I think that part of David's struggle is he didn't want to be an absolute donor class sellout. That's real. I think that is real and authentic as you can get. Yes. I think that when you think about the DNC, the moment Mamdani won the primary, the DNC should have been, this is our boy, we're gonna endorse him immediately. I think that they are not endorsing primary candidates immediately is a problem, regardless of whether they're running as Democratic Socialists or Democrats. They are all in the Democrat Party. They are all running on a Democratic ticket. Yes. They absolutely should have done that.
I think the argument was more. My understanding of why the DNC was skeptical at first was, I think they were concerned a few things. I think they were concerned on the fact, like, well, he's New York City. Like, why do we need to get involved with a race that's safe Democrat?
Because New York City has a bigger budget than I don't know 6 or 8 states in this country. Like New York City is the financial capital of the world. And the fact that the DNC did not do that, it was a mistake. They absolutely should have done it.
And I think that Democrats, and I think that this is a somewhat valid concern, given...
It's a lack of moral clarity on I think, their part.
I think there was also concern that, because Mamdani... The thing is, Mamdani, he admits he's trying to ruffle some feathers, and he's definitely doing that. And I think that, but I
to
think,
be done.
but I think that's concerned that his policies either go too far towards the socialist agenda, which he even admits would be is the case for some of them, and some cases also might, and also some people feel the rhetoric that he says regarding specifically regarding Jewish people can be that they. I think there's a lot more worries about how it could be perceived, which I think
Again, we are dying by optics. We are dying by the lack of moral clarity and what's going on in this country.
My view, though, is I think that, like, for example, I don't think endorsements have a huge impact on races, but I will say I think I as someone who is deeply skeptical of Mamdani, I think that we can acknowledge that he ran a very compelling.
He ran a hell of a campaign. He had a good sense of the sort of the youth of the city. He understood the pain points, and he spoke directly to those pain points.
The question,
at a minimum, that's how we should frame up elections.
The thing is, I think that the way he framed things, I think that some basic tenets of his campaign should be copied across the country. You saw the things. Different solutions, of course, very radical different solutions. But you saw Mikey Shale and Spanberger in Virginia and New Jersey. They ran on affordability, and I think that's the winning message. You're seeing it with Afton Bain and Tennessee's 7th special election, where this is a Trump plus 20 district, and Republicans are sweating bullets over this Democratic socialist candidate potentially winning in deep red Tennessee.
Yeah,
and so I think
because the reality is we have pockets of socialism in this country.
Of course.
And the fact that we use socialism to recruit into the army.
Of course.
We give you health care, we give you room and board, we're going to train you up and educate you. That's fucking socialism.
Well, I think my concerns with Mamdani are more like pragmatic. It's like, do you really think that you're going to be able to get first of all these policies, even if you could get them passed, are they feasible?
Yeah, they're feasible. Like the other thing I want to throw out is we live in an environment where we have to make compromises. Yeah. So from someone who's spent a fair amount of her career negotiating with people, ask for fucking everything and then be prepared to compromise. That's what we should all start out doing. That's part of what, when I wrote Project 2026, 100% of Project 2026 is everything I would like to see for this country. UBI, healthcare for everyone, affordable housing, a requirement of truth from our goddamn politicians, free education, all of these things within reason. Had we not been spent the last 50 years giving away the entirety of this country to the wealthiest 1%, we would have been able to afford. We could still afford. I think billionaires should be taxed out of existence. Literally, you could apply. I did some research because there was a bunch of back and forth on the No Kings, and one of the heirs of the Walmart heirs, she had contributed some money for the No Kings March back in July, and everybody's like, "Well, what about the Walmart bitch?" And I'm like, "Whatever, let me look." And this woman could pay 90% tax and still be a billionaire. Literally, generational wealth exists in this country that hasn't ever been taxed because of all of the tricks that they play with how they move their money around and how it gets protected.
I have no issues with billionaires, but I do think that we need to heavily tax them. The thing is, you can tax them 35.
We are broke. We are in debt as a country because of what we have given to billionaires.
You could do it. The thing is, let's say you do a 15% tax rate on billionaires. You pay for a lot of these programs that people say that you can't pay for, and you still be able to pay down the debt. And that's a 15% tax. That's a basic level thing. It's not hard.
It's also less than I pay in taxes.
Of course it is.
There's no way a billionaire should pay less in taxes than me.
There are some billionaires out there that are advocating for higher taxes.
Not many.
Well, I would agree.
It's a very small number. It's such a small number that you can probably name them.
Jamie Pritzker is one of them. He's
Yep.
Tom Steyer in California, who just launched a bid for California governor, is another one of them.
Melinda Gates.
Melinda Gates, yes. Bill Gates, depending on the day.
Depends on the day, yep.
He's philanthropic, but then he also shows up at Trump's thing and does his thing. But things, Melinda Gates, yes. I'm trying to think.
Right,
exactly.
but it is a very, very small number that encompasses, we're talking about not just billionaires, we're talking about trillions of dollars. When we are in the debt we are in because of the tax breaks we've given to billionaires, well, millionaires, then billionaires, for the last 50 years, we would not be in this position. We would not be in the debt we are had we not done this. We would not have seen a massive erosion of the middle class. We would not have at least the next three generations will be lucky to squeak by.
Well, the thing is, one of my first major posts, and honestly, I kind of wish that if I had known that I was going to get all these subscribers, I probably would have waited to do this post because I think there are more people would listen.
Just rewrite it, reissue it.
That's probably what I'll do. But the thing is,
I wrote new information. You have new ideas.
I wrote about this whole idea that we need to adopt this populist, progressive populism agenda, and it's a lot of these things, and talking about how we need to there's elements of what Trump said he wanted to do that I think we could do with a
scalpel instead of a sledgehammer.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah. I think the thing is, there's so many things we could do more efficiently in government. But the thing is,
I think that people also don't understand. There is a requirement a psychological requirement in the U.S. that you perform your poverty in a way, right? And so we don't want to give someone SNAP because they're not acting appreciative enough, or they had the temerity to buy cupcakes for their child, which
my view is I've always been. What pisses me off about stuff like that when people it's why should a child feel that they are different than their classmate because their classmate can get pizza and cupcakes or whatever they want, but because their mother or their father or whatever can't do it because we have a society that prioritizes billionaires getting tax breaks over middle class getting just a basic living wage,
bare minimum. Yes,
it's things. I'm of the view that yes, in an ideal world, SNAP would not need to exist, but since we are, the thing is because it. And you could easily do that. The thing is, I support a $18 minimum wage with tax.
I completely agree with Michelle. Michelle in the comments said, "Get money out of elections." Michelle should check out my currently infuriating piece on campaign finance because holy shit.
I think we should do publicly financed elections. You the things.
Yeah,
I like the whole thing that they do in New York City and they do it in New York also, New York statewide. Is that they do I can't remember what it's called, but it's in matching funds. I think that's a really good system. Now, I don't that you can opt out or opt in. I think that should be mandatory because because my view is, and this is what the candidate in Texas Senate race that I love, James Tallarico, he said,
"Love James.
I'm not going to disarm." He said, "I'm all for getting rid of PACs in elections, but until the Republicans disarm, I'm not going to stop taking money." Now he's received some attacks from Colin Allred and some Purity Democrats because he took money from Miriam Adelson's
or one of those. Yeah,
he does. Adelston did this has a pro legalizing gambling thing.
Yeah,
and things he is pro legalizing gambling. I don't really know enough about it to have a position on it one way or the other. My view is he received money in the past election from Adelson's PAC. He says I'm not going to disarm because out of purity, if the Republicans, this is the same thing that we saw in the redistricting thing. Yes, in the ideal world, let's get rid of redistricting nationwide. But until that happens, why the heck should we not fight fire with fire?
I completely agree.
That's what you see in Gavin Newsom. You see Abigail Spanberger's looking to do that in Virginia.
Yep.
You're seeing it. There's a talk doing in Illinois. This,
Kate Barr. I just did a profile in progress on her, right? Has re-registered as a Republican so
I
that she
saw
can,
that was awesome.
like, she's like, okay, I can't beat him as a Democrat. I'm going to hit him in the primary as a Republican. And like when I was doing the deep dive on her profiles in progress that I'm putting together, I was like, okay, this is like, she had started out, I think like 2 years ago or 4 years ago, like just running, like her literal website is Kate Can't Win. And she was running as a Democrat, I can't win, so let's do it anyway. And just, I thought was brilliant. But the fact that she is now running as a Republican in the primary, an unabashed Democrat running as a Republican to primary this guy, is the best thing that could have happened, right? Because in all of these safe districts, that's kind of what you got to do. And so you got to meet them where they're at and play ball.
I don't know if Kate will be successful, but it's an
what she's highlighting is the gerrymandering and the absolute bullshit of this situation.
The thing is, my view is, if she can get 30% of the vote in the primary, even if she loses, that'll be impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, smart, competent businesswoman bringing like what needs to be done into the market. And I think it's fantastic.
You have an amazing state senator in Michigan, Mallory McMorrow, and she's in a really tough fight against the Schumer class, who want Hillary Simmons, who I will say is a very competent congresswoman. I think Michigan would be lucky to have either one as senator. I personally prefer Mallory McMorrow because I think she's more of a fighter, more of a Lisa Stefanik rather than I think that Hillary Simmons is more willing to not be as willing to fight as much as we'd want.
Yeah.
But I think both can win the general.
We need fighters. We need people who understand sort of dirty hands, clean money. We need real fighters, people who can connect with the farmer in America, the blue collar voter.
I did a piece that did really well a few weeks ago about like Democrats' disconnect with rural America.
Yeah.
I'm not assuming that just because you're from rural America means that like you're going to be a Trump voter. Now, you see it because you see a level of down, like condescension from Democrats. And the thing is, now you don't need to go down and talk with a twang, with a cowboy hat on to
you still want to bring your authentic self. You don't want to talk down to people. And I think that,
when people talk about guns, for example, in rural area, like, it's not that it's about like, I want to be able to shoot. It's more of a, I grew up in rural America, so people I grew up with, it was like this is a family bonding activity. I get to spend time with my kid, shooting deer in the deer stand. Like, that's like a bond, like, it's like a, kind of like while you're cleaning your rifle in a safe manner, things, you're never going to find someone that knows how to be a safe gun owner more than you can be able to find in rural America. It's these Republican politicians that have their little Christmas pictures with the guns. What are you,
the all or nothing? It's the fetishization. And let me just preface this with bias. I lived in Coral Springs for 45 years, and David Hogue was in the shooting that I lost a friend in that school shooting. Yes. And so I don't have a lot of chill on this topic. But I also grew up around guns. My whole family were all hunters. Like, I was raised around guns, but I also absolutely believe we need real red flag laws with teeth. We have to have something in place that allows for the removal of guns when someone is a danger to themselves or others.
I also think
it's insane to me.
I think as an American, from rural America, I have no issue with the Second Amendment as written. Now, Republicans do, because they don't actually know what it actually says. Because it actually doesn't regulate things. It's talking about a well-regulated system. We didn't have a military at the time when the amendment was created. We were the militia. So we were the military ourselves. So I don't think that that's really, Republicans kind of gloss over that they love the second part. They love the last clause of that amendment.
Yeah.
They don't like the
Shall not be infringed, blah, blah, blah.
they love
Yeah.
that. They don't love the well-regulated militia needed to blah 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 blah. They don't know that part, or at least they ignore it. But the thing is,
Here's the
but
thing.
the thing is, I have no issue with the handguns. If you want to own a handgun for protection, fine. I dispute whether or not if someone's coming into your home and you
I want a
have
shotgun if I'm protecting myself. I don't know anybody who is effective with a handgun at 2 o'clock in the morning in the pitch black. I want something that has a scatter pattern, and that is self-protection, right?
But my view is but the thing is, I get people's wanting to believe that they think that they're protected. I get that. That's fine. You're not gonna be able to shoot more than one person with a handgun. I don't. That's less problematic to me. Assault weapon ban, the common sense legislation to me.
Yeah.
Red flag laws, common sense legislation. Just
I mean,
getting rid of loopholes, so you can't get them across state lines. Like for example, New York. A lot of things. New York has an assault weapons ban. We have a crime issue with guns because they get them from Pennsylvania and then travel them across the line.
Chicago has the same problem. Chicago has strict gun laws, and all the guns come in from Indiana and other locations. I mean, I live in Oregon, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, Oregon, the liberal hotbed of Oregon, whatever." Oregon's an open carry state. I literally can go to a convenience store on the corner of 26 and buy an AK, or well, not an AK, an AR-15. Like I can buy
Wow.
I want in Oregon, and I can strap it on my back and wear it to Walmart. Like,
I did not know that Oregon.
People don't know shit about Oregon. Everybody wants to talk about Portland, but the reality is we've got Eugene, which is very blue, Portland, which is very blue, and Salem, which is pretty freaking blue, and then the rest of it is red. And I mean red, capital R, red. But the reality is we have a huge swath of rural people, farmers and ranchers, and so that is the reality of Oregon, and most people don't really understand sort of the makeup of Oregon. But if we don't have laws in place that allow you to reasonably and with due process remove weaponry from someone who is a danger to themselves and others, that's important. Nicholas Cruz was clearly a danger to himself and others. He was the one that did the Parkland shooting. He should have easily have had his weapons removed.
Whenever we see one of these shootings, when it's like almost, I feel like it happens every day. The press only covers like the major ones with mass casualties, but like it happens way more often. But every time you see them in the news, I always look. I'm like, oh, when they finally get the suspect or find out who the suspect is, if they killed themselves in the process, or they got shot by the cops, is they almost always have showed either to their family, to their neighbors, to their friends. Now, there's a few cases where where they're like suddenly it's random, and but like the amount of times that this person has had some significant mental health issues. For example, even the guy in Utah that shot the cop, he had mental health issues.
My mom has Alzheimer's. I left Florida, moved to Oregon because of my mom's Alzheimer's. I moved her in with me, and part of the reason I knew I had to do that is because during 2020, when everything was on lockdown, her husband, basically, she couldn't understand why she just couldn't go out and drive around and interact with people. She, at this point, was in like the dementia stage, not full Alzheimer's, but kind of on her way there. And she didn't understand, right? And she got into 4 car accidents in a fairly short period of time. And so my mom's husband locked her car in the garage. And my mom went out and she bought a gun because she was going to kill her oppressor. Now, there's a lot going on there, but she legally went into a gun shop and bought a weapon because I hadn't, in order for her to not pass a background check, I would have had to have had her declared my ward, or, I'd had to have, what the fuck do they call it? There's a legal term for it where, like, she doesn't have the agency to do anything anymore because I'm now her, like, I had her power of attorney, but I hadn't had her declared incompetent. That's what the term is. Because I didn't want to take her agency from her. I felt like she still was kind of there. And then I got up there and she told me she bought a gun. I literally booked a flight, flew to Oregon, disarmed her, because, like, I walk in the door and she has a brand new sort of Sig Sauer, a little P360, very nice little weapon, clutched to her chest. And she's like, the young man showed me how to load it, but I can't do it. Can you show me? And I was like, the level of me losing my fucking mind over this, I can't even begin to explain. So I immediately gaslit her. And I was like, "Oh my God, it's my birthday. Is you get that for my birthday? I thank you so much." And I took her from her, and then had what might only be considered a psychotic meltdown in the middle of a gun shop in rural Oregon. We're not, and I said to the guy was like, "Well, she's got her rights," and I'm like, "Do not come at me with her rights. Her explicit intent is to kill her husband. She has dementia. Do not sell this woman another gun." Like, I don't know why I should have to say that to someone, but there were literally no tools for me to disarm her legally. Can you imagine?
The thing
And
is,
so
we
I
see the thing.
took her
We
gun
see a
away.
lot. The thing is, you see a lot of cases like that in America on various different things. You see the domestic abuse a lot. Thing is, a person that is either been called, like, accused of domestic abuse. Now, granted, like, I think that, my view is, if you've been accused of domestic abuse, but, like, you later found that there was, like, but by no means that it was a lie, that
Yes.
you
That's
should be.
why I started this with due process.
Yeah,
There ought to be a means of due process to
Maine,
remove
Maine, Maine,
weapons.
Maine just passed. Maine just passed a referendum a few Tuesdays ago that
Yep.
did just this, that. There's a process to, like, your guns removed until that you can deem that you are competent or whatever, or you're legally capable, and then
Legally safe.
yeah.
Like family annihilators exist, right? But they don't in general surprise people. Everybody's like, "Oh yeah, we knew he was a little bit of a wingnut or whatever." Like
Yeah.
they exist. Domestic violence exists. Please, the domestic violence in law enforcement is enormous. Like, there has to be a due process means to remove weaponry from someone who is a danger, and and whether you are a danger to yourself and suicidal, or because I don't know what the current number is, but somewhere between 30 and 40% of gun deaths in this country are by suicide. I
Yeah.
mean, just
Yeah.
imagine, the former military, people in the military, 22 a day are killing themselves. That those numbers are not going down. I read an article. I read an article last week about the fact that rural American farmers we're seeing an uptick in those people committing suicide.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And those people, most of them have some sort of weapon available to them at home. So if there isn't a process for removing them, and we don't have sort of the intestinal fortitude necessary to legislate this, then what do you do? Like, what do you just, I don't know, wing it? Like I was able to gaslight my demented mother, but that's not always an option, and then you've got a segment of our legislature that's looking at eroding things like no fault divorce, right?
Yeah.
And that enables abusers. It starts to, you start looking at it from from a female perspective. of these are all erosions of women's rights, whether it's no fault divorce, the ability to escape an abuser, the ability to get reproductive care. All of these problems are about controlling women.
What I find so interesting is, like, if you look at, for example, the ACA credit extension debate that's
Yeah.
currently kind of going before Congress. They're going through the motions, but frankly, it's not going
Yeah.
to happen.
Right.
But one of the things Republicans try to do was, because the thing is, I guess that losing healthcare, which is already a Democrat things, no matter what, when Democrats even when Democrats lose, when they ask people who do you trust more on healthcare, they always say Democrats. That's always been a Democratic issue, even if it's not the top issue in terms of voting.
Right.
And the second one is reproductive rights and abortion. And so Republicans thought it was smart to ask for negotiations to further restrict abortion rights as
Right.
as
part of it,
as part of
as a
as part of an
negotiating
agreement,
lever. Yeah.
as a negotiating lever to begin extension credit for like a year. And Democrats, including the ones that capitulated, said, "Hell no, that's not a non-starter."
Yeah.
which is obvious. I don't think a single Democrat would vote for that. In the House or the Senate. And the thing is, obviously, Democrats are going to use this. Like, see, they're not only trying to take your health care, they're trying to strip your freaking abortion rights away to make your own choices. To make your own choices. There's already restrictions in terms of health care and what levels of abortion are covered already. And they want to restrict it more, which is mind-boggling, because if you look at the 2022 elections, I would say the main cause of why Democrats didn't underperform the top of the ticket being Joe Biden, like normally happens in a midterm, is because of Dobbs and democracy. Mostly Dobbs, though. And I think that the fact that Republicans didn't learn that abortion is that, and obviously you saw all the referendums that passed in like Kansas, Kentucky, these red states, where they passed to protect abortion at the Roe standard or about the Roe standard. They didn't take that as a lesson, like, oh, maybe we don't mess with this.
Yeah.
Because those are the top two issues. But these people they want to take women's rights away. They want to take just people's rights away just in general. And they have like this thing that's like, and I don't know why they have such an obsession with like things. Obviously they're going after everyone's rights now at this point.
It's all based in patriarchal judgment.
It's
all about, because how dare you not take responsibility for your own sexuality as a woman? How dare you accidentally get pregnant? Like all of this is all about punishing women for being sexual beings. And it is, there's so many, it is the complete lack of consequential thinking. It is the inability to understand that a miscarriage is an abortion, and that topic, pregnancy, is an abortion. These are all, everything is framed up in how shit gets paid for through a fucking billing system, right?
Yeah.
So whether something is an elective abortion or a spontaneous abortion, I have a sister-in-law who had like significant fertility problems, and she had 11 miscarriages. That's 11 abortions, right? That is and there is like this inability to understand that in the state of Texas, female mortality, so maternal mortality, is going down. More women are dying in childbirth and from things like sepsis and that sort of stuff because they can't get care. And instead of looking that problem in the eye and saying, okay, this is weird, we don't want to do this, instead of looking that problem in the eye, they just stopped counting it. They did the same thing in Georgia. We're just going to stop counting it. Like, you don't like the answer, so just stop measuring the problem. Because I think that's where we're at right now in a lot of these cases.
There's the thing is, like, what you saw last year, I think it was like, I don't know when it was, but it was like, I want to say August or like July of last year, when Alabama Supreme Court ruled in a way that I think even GOP was like, "Oh, we didn't want this to get out. That we
We
thought
didn't
this
want
way."
this, right? Right? Because that's the whole fetal personhood thing, right? Think about this. You have a fertility problem. You and your wife go to a fertility clinic. They extract eggs. They create a couple of embryos. So now you have 10 embryos sitting in a
Yeah.
freezer that when you're ready to go, you want to have implanted a couple, whatever. If I were in the business of fertility clinic and understood that I had to have a level of ironclad uptime, because if I have a power outage and a freezer goes down and 7,000 embryos die and I'm now on the hook for killing 7,000 people, I mean, that's the math. That's what we're really, really talking about.
And the thing is, my view is, like, if the power went out right now, we wouldn't die because we are fully. A 1-year-old would not die.
Right.
A 6-month-old would not die.
Right. You're not gonna put your 6-month-old in the freezer.
Yeah.
Right. That's the whole thing. Right.
But the thing is, my aunt and uncle, they had fertility issues, and they gave birth May of last year, and I don't know exactly the process. I don't know if it was IVF or if it was some other thing, but I know they had tried IVF. I don't know if that was what succeeded in the end.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I remember when that ruling came down. They live in Maryland, so they were going to be okay, assuming that Trump didn't try to do some shady stuff later on. And after they already given birth, so they were, but they're like, this is something like we felt it because like this could have been affected us if this was a nationwide thing. Like things, if we lived in Alabama, if they lived in Alabama, they would have been screwed if they were in the middle of that process. And the thing is, people spend like 2 years in that process sometimes before they can even like do all the different tests and all the different things and amount of months you have to go in and do different. It's just like it's a long time, and then you're in the middle of the process. And obviously, that's why the legislature quickly remedied it. And then Trump came out like, "Oh, I'm going to stay IVF as president," and then he hasn't done anything in the last 10 months.
Right. Well, I mean, here's what I think the root of the thing comes down to. Anything that is in relation to human rights has no business at the state level, right?
Yes.
Your bodily autonomy should exist at the federal level. Your legal protections within the legal contract that is marriage should exist at the federal level. Everything that has to do with your rights as a human existing in this country should never, I completely agree, but none of that should be pushed down to the states. Anything that has to do with your rights, your agency as a human should not be at the state level, because the only answer to someone at the state level changing your rights is you don't like it, fucking move. Right? And that's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. I left Florida and moved to Oregon. I spent $40,000 on that move. Like, I am not exaggerating when I tell you the move, you don't like it, move is a shit answer.
Well, like, oh, we're going, like, if you want to get an abortion, you should travel to another state. Don't.
Oh, but we'll track you down and we'll subpoena your records, and then when you come back,
you'll get charged with murder in the first degree. But other than that, you can do it.
And if you got pregnant as a result of a rape, you have less rights than your fucking rapist.
And the thing is that it's the thing is, if you look at the arguments that are made by at least today's GOP, like the thing is, I don't know, because the thing is, these types of like vitriolic debate talking points, at least were not recited out loud by Republicans of the 90s, 80s. Now, again, it's hard to know if Republicans were just better controlled at saying what they wanted to say back then, or if the parties legitimately changed into a more radical thing. I think it's both. But
I think it's both. I think the vitriol is enabled from the top down.
Yes.
And I always talk about sort of the fact that a lot of what Trump does is he sort of pressure tests, right? He's pushing a boundary to see how far he can push it. And then as soon as they see Trump doing it, they're like, well, he can get away with it. I can get away with it. And then they
They
get
do.
away with it. They get away with it. And this is all part of epistemic war, the epistemic war that we have been under for the last, let's say, I don't know, somewhere 25, 40 years of epistemic warfare. You saturate, you enclose, you capture, and then you perpetrate selective violence. It is like I have the SecSev model that I have been continuously testing and continuously proving for since I published it basically earlier this summer. It absolutely proves out every single time you see it, step for step for step. Saturate, enclose, capture, selective violence. This is what we do, what they do time and time and time again. And the left can't seem to get their head around the fact that this is a repeatable model that you could use for good instead of their bullshit.
Well, yeah, the thing is, I think that, and this is the last thing I think I'll say before, because I think
Yep.
we've come about 2.5 hours.
Oh my God, we've been talking for 2.5 hours. I think I did tell you I could talk all afternoon.
Oh, I can too. That's the thing is, that's why I was like, we'll figure this out. But the thing is if you look at like cult leaders, dictators, they all follow the same model of like repeating things
the same model
several times. And things Trump repeats things. Now, part of it's because he doesn't know what he's saying, and he's dementia with it.
Right.
But like, the thing is, I think that a lot of it's also like he knows what strategy works. If you repeat things long enough, people will believe it.
Yep.
And the thing is, and guess what? It works.
It works. It works every time.
Now, whatever you say.
It works every time, and it works in a way that when you see the pattern, once you've seen the pattern happening, you start seeing it everywhere and you realize, oh shit, this is real. And like, I can only suggest that people really, really think about what you see in your feed, what you see when you start clocking, when you see something like I did this piece on Katie Porter. In the span of 30 minutes, I heard 4 different people refer to Katie Porter as Snippy, right? And I was like, that's weird. That's the same talking point. This is interesting because it was from 2 different people. It was one of them was a Republican, and then there were a couple of Democrats, but everybody's using the same word, right? So then I was like, let me dig a little deeper into this. Let me do some searching, right? And so what I found, and I actually published one of my epistemic war reports on her, because the reality is what this really was a gendered attack against interaction that she had with a reporter that was not that big of a deal, but absolutely blew up because it was amplified through algorithm. And that's how epistemic warfare works.
I think that like what you have with Katie Porter, I don't know the exact specifics of, but I think that like what Katie Porter's struggle was that it was not just like that she had that interview that I personally think that like it showed like I think that if she just like answered the question then just kept going, the fact that she like tried to get up and left and then came back, I think that's what did a lot of it. It was not just like because people have combative interviews all the time. That's not the issue.
But what happened in the interview was less relevant than how it was both being messaged online and how it was being escalated through an escalation ladder in the algorithm.
Well, I think the issue also was that like you had past incidents where she had been very abusive of her staff. So people were like,
look, I've been called abrasive my whole goddamn life. I am fucking abrasive. It is what it is. I also can't see through my dirty glasses. Like my whole life, snippy, abrasive, whatever. It is what it is. Like I said earlier, I'm not high on the likability scale. Thankfully, I don't need to be. I'm not running for office.
The thing is, someone asked me like you, like, I always get told like, oh, you have a lot of opinions. I'm like, yeah, I'm not trying to run for office. I'm trying to be the one that strategizes how someone else can run for office. I don't have if someone says something stupid to me on the campaign trail, guess what? I'm going to be like, no, that's dumb. No, I'm not going to. The things I don't have that filter that you need. The things, but I also understand that you do need to have that filter if you're the candidate. But the things I know that I shouldn't be. I would not say that to someone. I just know that if someone said to me, "Oh, Trump is good for rural voters," I can write about how he's not in a cogent, nice, not flippant way. But if you say that to me, and I hear you say it in person, I'm gonna be like, what? No,
absolutely not.
The thing is, one of the issues facing rural Americans is the buyout for cents on the dollar of their small family farms by agribusinesses for cents on the dollar for the last 20 years. That's been boosted by the fact that they don't have to pay much in taxes. They can afford to buy these small farms out and then run them into the ground. And then we have to buy, and we have to get, then you have tariffs. Even before Trump, you had tariffs, but like double down on Trump. And then you have just Trump being just a bad person for
everything about Trump from the rural voter should have been questioned, including we're going to deport all of your farm working. Like, you literally have an exploitative labor model, and yet you're voting for someone who is going to take your exploited labor away from you. Like, that is something that people should really have considered. And then when you layer on that the tariffs, and you layer on, like, I was watching someone talk about how, I make American made products and the tariffs aren't going to affect me. And then 5 months later, he has to buy a piece of equipment from China, and it's now $400,000 more expensive than it was 5 months ago. And he's like, I didn't think the tariffs were going to. Come on, consequential thinking. Think 2 steps, 3 steps ahead when you think about these items.
The thing is, I think that Democrats don't. The thing is, Democrats sometimes struggle partially because of the strategists like focus group, whole test model of the Democratic strategist that funds the Democratic Party. And for some reason, they keep losing elections for us. We can't seem to break off on them and say, like, you don't look anymore. Like,
they don't have any moral clarity. They really don't have the backbone necessary or the willingness to fight. I've worked in consulting for a long time, not campaign consulting, but management consulting. Yeah. And, there's a saying in consulting that if there's money to be made in the solution, there's more money to be made in prolonging the problem.
Yeah.
That is, where we are with consulting. If you don't have, with campaign consulting in particular, if you don't have the moral clarity and sort of the intestinal fortitude to put something forward, that's one thing. But if what you are putting forward sacrifices a population of people, you have already made a moral compromise that, in my opinion, is unacceptable. We should not be willing to play card games with who is of value as a human and who isn't.
Well, the thing is, if you look at
that should be a floor.
If you look at Obama's 2008 and 2012 campaigns, the reason why he kind of did really well is because he was not the favorite of the party to win, because it was Hillary and everything at that time.
Yeah,
he was able to pick his own strategy. He was able to pick his own people that he thought were the best at and things. And now, granted, he hired some of the people that Hillary had in 2012, but he had still some of his people from the 2008 campaign, and he won again by a huge margin.
Yeah.
But then in 2016, did Hillary learn from hiring some of those people? No, she picked the same goddamn people that Bill Clinton had, that Carter had, if they were still alive, and stuff like that. So and then Biden, he picked his people. Kamala Harris, because of the late things, she picked her. I think one of the biggest litmus tests for, as a nerd and a political strategist, if I'm looking at like who to support in 2026 in terms of voting, who are you hiring? Are you hiring
100%.
the same things? Because that tells you what type of thinker, like what type of fighter are you a fighter? Are you a what type of
Right.
values you have. Things. If you're going to be hiring the Anita Dunns and the various other people that you have in Biden's world, so there was the same people that were in Clinton's world, both Clinton's
Yep.
world, but we're not in Obama's world. Now, granted, I don't think everyone in Obama's world is amazing either. I think that there's plenty of problems with them too. Because I think it's a different world than it was in 2012 and 20.
I used to have an old boss, and my old boss used to say, "Well, I'm going to hire the smartest people I know." And I always said, "I'm going to hire the smartest people I can find." Right? And that is two different mentalities.
Yes,
And again, I'd point you back to Mamdani and his transition team, because holy Christ,
Lena
has
Khan,
he brought in
I love Lena Khan,
the absolute powerhouse of a transition team. These weren't the smartest people he knew. These are the smartest people he could find. The fact that they're all women, I can only celebrate. Yay, women. But the point is, you should be seeking out the expertise and the smartest people you can find.
Whatever that means.
So, you know what I want to be? You know what I want to be? When I'm sitting around a table as a leader of my organization, I want to be the dumbest person at the fucking table. I want to look around the table and think every single one of these people are smarter than me. So I am in a good position to move the team forward, because I don't have to be the smartest person at the table. My ego is not engaged from a leadership perspective in being the smartest people at the table. I know what I am. I'm a good leader. I move people.
The thing is that, and the thing is, sometimes when we're talking about these discussions, this is also a problem with, like, you have the problem with the center who always pick the people, but then you also have the people that are on the left side that's like, oh, we need to pick people that are the smartest of this identity group. And that, again, that also things like, yes, are there plenty of amazing women out there? Yes, there's plenty of them. But also, like, this, like, if you look at, like, oh god, Chuck Rosha, he's an amazing guy who too few people know. Because the thing is, he's a Hispanic guy who didn't go to college, which makes him a lot harder for people to hire. Because again, he says, I have nothing against people that go to college. He said, I just didn't have the luxury. I wish I could have gone to college. I did not have the money to do it. I had to go straight into the working business. I think that, like, I think the whole Democratic thing that we did after 2024 of, like, oh, if you went to college, you automatically, like, inferior, opposed to, like, what we were doing before, which is, like, elitism stuff. I don't think it's like we go from extreme to extreme sometimes in terms of, like, I mean,
there's a reason that Grant Plattner got the traction he did off the bat, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like, he had a whole lot of problematic shit going on. And haven't we all done stupid shit in our 20s? I look back and think, I am so glad that camera phones did not exist when I was 19.
Yes. The thing is, well, I did a piece about, I don't know if it was a note or if it was just like or if it was an actual piece. I think it might have been a column. I think that I put it more on the Jana Mills side, just because I think that the baggage is too much at this point. But I think that she also has the issues that she's
elderly.
Like, I've seen her give interviews on MSNBC and other places. I'm just like, do you need directions back to where you need to be? Like, I'm sorry, but, like, you do not look like you are fit to be going to the Senate. You look like you need to be going to the nursing home. And there's plenty of old people that do not look and sound old.
I know that I come across as ageist. The reality is what we have today is a monoculture. We have monoculture right now. We need diversity of thought. We need diversity of ideas. We need people of color. We need Christians and Muslims and Jews and Buddhists and Sikhs, and we need diversity. Diversity is the only thing that saves us from being a monoculture. Monocultures are fragile.
I don't disagree with you. I think the issue I had with Grant Plattner, I think, just has so many different, like, it was the Reddit post. I didn't agree with. I think that when I heard the thing he said about Ted Nugent, I was like, okay, I agree with you on Ted Nugent. But, like, the thing is, everything else, I was like, okay, this is like the communist thing, or socialist. I'm like, okay, you can't be both. First of all, like, this whole thing. Also, I heard somewhere, I don't know how true this is or not, but I heard somewhere that I think it was reported that the people that unearth these things, they use Palantir to find it because this was a deleted account. Now, I don't see why anyone, given the fact this came out on the day that Jada Mills announced, I have a feeling it came from the Senate Democratic campaign committee. Because if you were Jada Mills, if you were Susan Collins, when you want a weaker candidate with all these things, not going to come out until after you win the primary?
Back to what I was saying about the DNC, when you win a primary, like, there should be real support. And the fact that the DNC went out and scraped up someone to run against him instead of providing some support for someone who had no fucking clue what he was doing.
I will say, I will say you do have, that was the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, not the DNC. I think, and Ken Martin has said, they asked him if he thinks that Graham Platter should drop out. He says, it's not up to me whether or not, he said he has a movement behind him. He says, and the voters will decide what matters to them, what doesn't matter to them, and who the best candidate is to defeat Susan Collins. That's what matters. And he said, I'm the DNC chair. I don't pick elections. I make sure that Democrats can win the elections. I develop the infrastructure. I don't develop the candidates. And I think that that's the right message. We should not be getting involved in primaries. That's my view. Unless like there's a really problematic candidate that is like bad, then there should be no. And I think that Graham Plattner, I think that he has some struggles that he has. I think the tattoo, I think, was the nail in the coffin.
Like,
but he has the movement.
But I don't know that it's the nail in the coffin. And the reason I'm going to say this is because what we get from media and what is happening on the ground, I think, are two very different things.
I'm not saying that he won't win the primary. I still think he can win the. I think
there's a good chance he wins the primary, and then we'll see what the DNC does.
I personally think that it's going to be very interesting to see if he wins the primary or not. And then I think that they'll back him because they just like Susan Collins so much. I think she could, if he can find a way to win the primary, that means he's beating the establishment. I think he can then beat Collins because the environment's going to be so bad, I think, for Republicans. But I think that when I said the nail, I think that I was like, I don't feel comfortable with the information that came out about the tattoo. I was like, the fact that he knew about, like, he later found out about it. I was like,
fucking Hegseth.
I think Pete Hegseth, I don't think he should be running for office either. But I just have issues with that. I personally think
I think he should get a blanket party from his fat ass generals.
I would not be surprised if that happens. But with that, I wanted to say that to your subscribers, to my subscribers, please check out This Woman Votes. It's an amazing Substack. It was amazing to talk to you.
It was great.
It's a good conversation when like it's a planned whatever, and then it goes to almost 3 hours.
For 30 minutes and go nearly 3 hours. That's great.
Yes. The thing is, it's a lot of people in my generation just don't feel comfortable talking to people just in general.
Yep.
Like, and definitely different generational stuff like that's people struggle with that in my generation. I don't know why, but like I think that I grew up with my grandparents raised me, my mom raised me. So like I had generation. I was enveloped in different generations, and I'm considered the resident boomer of my friend group because I don't understand half the trends that are going on nowadays. Like I know that they're happening.
My oldest son, all of the rest of the kids call my oldest son the boomer. So yeah, boomerism happens.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm like, I feel like a lot of stuff in my generation. I'm like, okay, that's stupid. I'm not gonna do the 6-7 trend. I'm not gonna do this stuff. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
But again, thank you for joining. It was awesome.
Thanks for having me. We should do it again. Maybe not nearly 3 hours, but we should definitely do it again.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
Have a good day.